I was born during the hard depression days. Oh my lord, in July, South Georgia, where the sun was hot and ablaze, and my folks were sharecroppers. At the end of the year, we had nothing. We had nothing. We had nothing but grasshoppers. Looking back on all my life, oh Lord, I'm so depressed. Tell me how long must I wonder? Okay, I think that gets the point. The general tone of this podcast across. Depressing as shit.
Yeah, I was trying to learn the song from Peppermint Candy.
Oh, I really liked the song in Secret Sunshine that she goes and she plays like the Lies song.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I thought that one was pretty.
I like pretty much all the music. I love how like intertwined music is in pretty much all those movies. Welcome to the podcast about Lee Chang-dong, where one thing's for sure. Actually, two things are for sure. He loves depression and karaoke.
Yeah.
I think there's a karaoke scene in every one of the movies except Greenfish, I think. But Greenfish has a singer.
Yeah, has like a lot of stage performance regardless.
But like specific karaoke is in every other movie. Specifically, Song Kang-ho has his own karaoke machine. Oh, what a beautiful man. Anyway, welcome to Screen Weens. I'm a screen, he's a ween. We're going to be talking about one of the biggest South Korean directors, at least working today. I'd put him right up there with fucking Bong Joon-ho and Park Chan-wook for fame-wise.
Yeah.
And we're going to be talking about all 6 of the movies he's directed. And we're going to be talking about a little bit about him. But first, let's just take a minute, just relax and talk about what else we've been doing this week.
Yeah.
I don't really think I watched any other movies. Let me just make sure. These movies are all, warning, they're all fucking sad.
I think we both watched Persona.
Well, we did watch, after we recorded the podcast last week, we watched the Bergman film Persona, which is considered by, I would say, most that have seen it to be his best.
It's pretty...
Or
one
like
of his more
top
popular.
3, I would say. And I really liked it. I thought it was pretty great, but I didn't, like... It didn't blow my fucking mind like I thought it would.
Yeah, I think I've seen so many films that kind of pay homage to it that the impact was a little not as thorough as it could have been, but I still enjoyed it a lot regardless, and I'm hoping that I'll enjoy it much more on future watches.
Yeah.
I gave it an 8.
I also did. Yeah. I thought it was great. I don't know why, but I was expecting, I'm like, this is going to be a 10 out of 10.
Yeah.
And that might have hindered myself as well, but...
built it up too high.
Yeah, maybe. I did watch a couple things, like, because we recorded last Monday, and, like, that Tuesday and Wednesday I was watching other stuff, and then I started watching the movies for the podcast. I'm like, I can't bring myself to watch anything else.
Yeah.
But I watched this movie called Dokusei, or Classmates. It's like an hour-long anime from 2016 about these, like, 2 gay guys in, like, a high school setting. It's really good.
Huh.
It's really good. There's, like, a couple weird scenes that, like, really throw off the movie, but most of it is really good. Okay. And I'm like, wow, gay! And I rewatched Grand Budapest Hotel.
Oh, yeah? That still live up to...
Yeah. I know a lot of people think it's, like, Anderson's best. I don't.
Yeah.
I like it a lot. I think it's great, but Rushmore's still for me.
Rushmore's a good one. I think it's a good, like, go-to example. Like, I think Budapest is, like, a good, like, oh, you haven't seen Wes Anderson before. Check out Grand Budapest. It's
Yeah.
a good, like, beginner one.
It is.
Because he's pretty much figured out his style by the time he got to Budapest, and it's kind of him just, like...
That's his most Anderson. Until the new one comes out. French Dispatch looks fucking...
I haven't watched the trailer.
I've mostly just seen stills from it. I watched a bit of the trailer, but I'm like, I want to save this.
Yeah, that was kind of my thought behind it, too. Because I really liked the Isle of Dogs trailers, and Isle of Dogs didn't quite live up to it
I
for me.
remember that, and I thought that Isle of Dogs is like one of my favorite Anderson movies.
I need to rewatch it
Me
again.
too.
Maybe knowing what it is will
A
give
dog
me...
movie.
I don't know what I was expecting from it. I just wanted, like, a little more.
Gotcha. I also watched Independence Day 2.
Oh.
I think we talked about that a little bit.
Yeah.
That was
in your
fucking
Discord.
awful. Like, I don't mind the first. I think the first is, like, kind of like fun bad. Like,
Mm-hmm.
actually, I think it's kind of decent. There's good parts to it, but this one was just like, yeah, that was fucking awful. It was really, really boring. Like, really boring.
Doesn't surprise me.
And then I watched the 1996 Sonic the Hedgehog, like, OVA.
Oh, okay.
That was also bad. But, you ever seen that, like, meme with the cartoon owl with, like, the skater? He's, like, has, like, a skater outfit.
Not ringing any bells currently, but maybe.
Hold on.
Okay, I'm holding.
I'll fucking get it for you. My Wi-Fi's not on. Hold on.
Oh no!
This one. You ever seen that?
No,
Oh.
I haven't.
Maybe it's just my favorite, but that's where that's from. It was okay, I guess. And then I watched some shitty horror movie called Demonic. That was terrible.
Yeah, sounds.
And then I watched these movies, and pretty much the rest of my time I've just been spending playing Halo, which has been the jam. It's nice to relive the good old days because I used to play Halo a lot when I was like 13. Played Reach a fuck ton.
Played it a little bit. Just a smidge.
Just a smidge. But you've been watching anime?
Yeah, so I've been reading Hunter x Hunter, or Hunter x Hunter. As
Hunter Squared.
Yeah, as I'm sure some of you will call it. I call it Hunter x Hunter because fuck you, the X is there. I'm going to pronounce it.
You know, good for you. Stick to your ideals.
Yes. So, yeah, I've been reading that, and then I stopped right as I, like, finished the Heaven's Arena arc, and I, pretty much just, took the time, because I'm like, well, I kind of want to, like, just sit down and read Hunter x Hunter and experience it, and I knew I had to watch 6 depressing-ass movies this week, so I was like, fuck, I'll just, put this on hold. But I still kind of, like, had the itch to experience it in my downtime, so I was watching... it has 2 animes. There's the 99 anime, and then that eventually had to get canceled because it ran out of material. And then years passed, the arc that the old anime died on finally got completed, along with an arc following, and they did the new anime from 2011.
Is that the one people like?
Yeah, that's the one that got, like, really popular. So
I haven't seen Hunter Squared, so...
I'd recommend it, and I'd recommend watching the 2000.
My friends watched it a while ago, but I was just always working, or I would have joined them.
It's a really well-made, well-written shonen. It's great. I'd also recommend Yu Yu Hakusho, which I just finished. Thank you. But yeah, so I've been going back and watching the 99 anime to see, like, what's different, and quite a bit. It's got quite a lot of filler in it. Quite a lot.
Nice.
I also read the new Death Note chapter that they released that has Donald Trump in it.
Are you serious?
It does. And it sounds bad, but it's actually pulled off pretty well.
Remember when Donald Trump was in Burning?
Was he?
Yeah.
Do they show him, like, in a news clip or
Yeah.
something? Oh, I'm missed it.
Oh, yeah, he's talking. You can hear him. He's right in the corner of the screen. You're like, he's right there. He's on like the left side of the screen.
Oh, no.
Oh.
I think his face is like the noise that a refrigerator makes, where my brain just kind of tunes it out when I see it, so...
My refrigerator is also racist.
Oh, yeah. Mine too.
This is why we need to ban all refrigerators.
I agree. They're too
Alright.
cold.
And then you said you were playing a little gaming, too?
Oh, yeah.
Playing a little gaming?
I played some Fortnite.
Whoa! Fortnite!
Oh, yeah. And then I played a little bit of The Outer Worlds.
Is that the, like, kind of like...
It's kind of like
Fallout space?
Yeah, space, yeah.
How is it? I've heard it's pretty good.
I'm enjoying it so far. We'll see how far I get along with it. I tend not to get very far in like these big RPG games, but I'm gonna try. And then I purchased the original Dragon Quest trilogy for the Switch, so
nice.
I'm gonna try it.
Never played Dragon Quest.
Me neither, but the author for Hunter x Hunter is like super addicted to it, and it's like supposedly one of the things that keeps him from writing Hunter x Hunter, because it's famous for its hiatuses, and it's usually...
Sorry guys, gotta go play Dragon Quest.
Yeah, the fans point it to two things. Dragon Quest and his back problems. It's more than likely mostly his back problems, but supposedly...
I guess it just hurt to like do anything and he just doesn't feel like it, or... You have to like go to the hospital.
He's been in the hospital before. Lots of
just, like,
manga
lay down and like.
Lots of mangaka develop like severe health problems involving like their back and their like, wrists.
I get it.
Because all they do is sit inside, draw, and smoke cigarettes. That's all like the author for One Piece does.
Sounds like something David Lynch would do too, except just write or actually draw too, because he's an artist.
He does lots of paintings.
What if David Lynch made a manga?
I'm sure he's probably made a comic. If I were to look it up, I'm sure I could probably find something.
David Lynch is like, with my last years of life, I'm gonna go move to Japan and become a manga artist.
That would be epic. Twin Peaks the manga. Oh,
I'm gonna go work for My Hero Academia.
I'm going to go animate for My Hero where they'll underpay me. But it'll be okay because I'll just be drawing pictures and smoking cigarettes, which is truly all I really want from life.
As long as they have coffee, I'll be okay.
Yeah.
And no phones!
I swear, if anyone watches my anime on a smartphone...
I will grab you through the screen and kill you.
That would be...
David Lynch is like the villain of Inuyashiki.
What happens if, like, David Lynch dies in a terrible accident and he becomes, like, the rain ghost and just...
I thought you were going to say the unfriended ghost.
Oh, no.
Because they're, like in
someone's watching and raise their head on their phone and suddenly, like, he peeks out from behind the curtain and just comes out.
I'm coming!
You have 30 seconds to turn this off of your phone and put it on your TV or else I'm coming out.
And they're like, oh, I would love to meet you, David Lynch. She's like, okay, here I come. Genius. I could see David Lynch somehow figuring out how to achieve immortality.
He's a very spiritual man, so...
He is. There's a lot of yoga.
Yeah.
I should do
a lot of meditating.
All right. Yeah, so not a lot of this week. I'll probably get back into the movie watching mood this coming week, though, because I'll watch more maybe jovial films. Or maybe just not watch depressing movie after depressing movie.
Yeah, I'm going to finish Hunter x Hunter, and then I plan on getting back.
Oh,
watching.
The Clone Wars Season 7 started.
Oh, yeah, I saw your
season.
Facebook post about it.
So I did watch the opening episode of that, and yeah. Just waiting for a New Republic Commando game. Have you ever played that one?
No.
It's like... It's pretty similar aesthetic to like a Halo game, pretty much. Except you're on like Geonosis during the Clone Wars. It's great. It's a great game.
I bought a few different like popular Star Wars games when they were on sale on Steam not too long ago. So that might be one of the ones I
probably have Republic Commando. And yeah, that game's really good. Some of the controls have aged kind of poorly because it was from like original Xbox, but
yeah, old systems
still
do
good.
that.
Yeah.
Mario 64, that's a dank game, but the controls, ooh, if you're not used to them.
Yeah, like I grew up on N64 and I would play it every once in a while, like growing, like still as an adult, so I'm fine with that. But like trying to play PlayStation 1 games, I was like, fuck me, because I didn't have a PS1 when I was growing up, so like as an adult, I'm just like, what the fuck?
Oh yeah.
All right, let's move on to some questions.
Okay.
Let's start this off with some questions from Julia.
Epic.
Do you have any characters from films that you strongly relate to? If so, who and why? The cockroach from WALL-E. I don't know. You know, it's like I see myself in characters. I feel like that's why I enjoy films. Like there's certain characters I see myself in, but I don't know if I like relate to them on like a truly. You know what? Actually, the main character of Vagabond, I relate to her, especially like my 18-year-old self, like the same age as like she was in the movie. I get that. I relate to her strongly. Because I was almost a vagabond.
Yeah.
Kind of relate to, the Song Kang-ho and the host. Because I feel like I just fuck up a lot.
Yeah.
I don't think I actually do, but I just feel like I do in every corner.
I feel.
Chewbacca, because I'm tall.
It's fair. It's a fair comparison.
I feel like those are the main ones for me. Oh, I know who you relate to. The Joker.
Yeah, totally.
I'm the Joker, baby.
Video's great. Yeah, except I'm gonna swoop in and I'm gonna say like Cesar Romero's Joker and not.
You're gonna say Robert Pattinson's the Batman.
Yeah. I don't want to be that modern Joker. It's alright.
Yeah, I get that.
Kind of like hits this middle ground where it's like, feels just, it just has like big incel energy written all over it, which turns me off a little. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah.
But I'm letting you know my bias is up front. Let's see, if I had to like relate to a character.
Can't believe Thomas just said he wants to genocide all incels. Just kidding, I do.
Brigsby Bear.
Like the bear itself?
Yeah.
Or the main character?
The main character, whose name I can't remember.
I feel that. Is it Josh? No.
I can't even remember that. Andy Mooney?
Kyle Mooney.
Kyle Mooney.
Close. You remember the Mooney part.
I did.
Why do you relate to the main character of Brigsby Bear? He just wants to make movies.
Yeah,
he's kind of awkward.
I'm an awkward guy who wants to make movies. Not to the degree that he is, but I felt like I was like sheltered by my parents to a certain degree. So that kind of like feeds into it a little bit. If you haven't seen Brigsby Bear, please check it out. Great movie. Very fun.
Masterpiece, I would say.
I haven't seen very many, if any, movies quite like it, so definitely check it out.
The Lonely Island is a production company. Or I guess, Akiva Schaffer and Andy Samberg. I don't know if The Lonely Island actually produced it. Like, I don't know if they're considered a production company. But those three, like, the movies they produce are usually pretty solid.
Did they do a Hot Rod?
I don't know if they all did it, but I like Hot Rod.
Yeah, I like Hot Rod.
It's kind of aged poorly, but
I haven't watched it in several years, but I remember liking it quite a bit.
It's pretty goofy. Oh, Akiva Schaffer directed Hot Rod. Oh, okay. Next question from Julia.
Okay.
Who are the best parents in film?
I like the dad from Call Me By Your Name. I think he's a pure, wholesome dad.
Yeah.
Let's see.
See, the thing is, I like to watch movies that are sad, and a lot of sad movies don't. Oh, wait. The mom from Little Women.
Yeah.
She's powerful.
She's great. Bong Joon-ho from not Bong Joon-ho.
From Life, he's just...
Yeah. Song Kang-ho in any Bong Joon-ho movie.
Yeah. At least by the end of it. Like, I don't think he was a good dad and fucking the host, but by the end of it, he was
he tried.
Yeah, he was. He was trying.
You could argue that he's not a very good dad in Parasite either, but
he's trying.
He's trying.
That's because of rich people. Rich people made him bad.
Spoiler alert for both Parasite and the host real quick. Just hit the forward arrow button if you don't want to hear it. His daughters always die in those movies. Except for Snowpiercer. His daughter lives in that one.
But he died.
Yes.
Oh, I guess Snowpiercer's one. I mean, who else is a good parent?
Mark Hamill and Brigsby Bear.
I was gonna say that, but that's not true.
Will Smith in After Earth.
When I first read that, I don't know why that popped into my mind because that's not true. But that was the first thing that came to mind. I was like, what the fuck? Why did I think that? Fucking,
Ethan Hawke in Before Midnight.
I think he's a pretty solid dad.
I mean, we only see him with his kids for like 0.5 seconds and he skips out on a landmark they wanted to see. Yeah.
He's like, sorry, we're closed. Sorry, closed. Steve Carell in Beautiful Boy.
Yeah.
He was pretty solid.
Pretty good.
He was trying.
He was trying.
He was fucking up. I feel like I don't really want to see good parents. I want to see, or like objectively good parents. I want to see parents that are failing but trying and becoming better. Because I like drama.
Yeah.
What about the mom from Mamma Mia? Meryl Streep. Have you seen Mamma Mia?
I can't stand ABBA's music, so I probably would hate it.
Fuck you.
Oh, Mamma Mia, here we go again.
I should just make you watch Mamma. Alright. Yeah, so those are some.
Just gonna give you a word of warning. Don't.
Okay.
I've got a couple movies in my back pocket that I know you really would not enjoy.
You don't know that.
I think I've got
Birth of a Nation.
I'll have you know, D.W. Griffith's, most of his body of work is still around, and they're all extremely long. We can watch Intolerance, we can watch Birth of a Nation. He made other ones, I just can't remember the titles of them.
What is the first major use of CGI in a film that you were impressed by? I mean, as a child, I don't think you're really impressed by CGI. You might go, oh, that looks cool, but like you don't really understand what CGI.
Well, I had a pretty good grasp on it growing up because I was I was born in just that like sliver of time where we're transitioning from like the old world into like the modern world.
The old world.
The old world. The boomer land, you know.
Yeah, no, I get it. I just mean
pre-computer takeover, like before it like got really good. Like I still had to deal with like dial-up internet and having to deal with like, you know, the superstition of like my parents being like, "Oh no, don't ever buy anything offline because everything's a scam." Like that was the kind of like taboos that were around back in the day. And same with movies. Like I grew up, I was there when like I remember seeing like DVD commercials and then when Blu-ray came out. So I was there to like see the progress. I remember thinking the Star Wars movies looked pretty good when I was a kid. And at the time, I mean, they have their obvious flaws. Like, it doesn't look convincing, but for the time, it was pretty impressive.
I was going to say, I actually do think that Jar Jar Binks is like, even if you don't like him as a character, he was kind of a big landmark thing.
Yeah.
And I think he's well animated still. I just think it's the biggest thing about CGI that ages is the textures of it and the lighting. Like, it's so obvious because everything's so much better textured and stuff.
Yeah.
Like, not everything's all weird and slimy.
Yeah.
But I do think that Jar Jar Binks, like, was, like, revolutionary. The same with Gollum. Yeah. Gollum's fucking incredible.
King Kong, that was another
King Kong.
Good one.
I didn't see that until, like, a couple years ago. But King Kong, like, as an adult, I was, like, 19 or 20, looks incredible. Like, most of the CG in that movie holds up super well.
Yeah.
There's a scene where they're, like, running next to dinosaurs and, like, stuff's collapsing that looks awful. But everything else in the movie looks, like, really good.
Yeah. And
King Kong himself looks fucking amazing.
Yeah, he does. He really does. Andy Serkis killed it in that movie. And another Andy Serkis movie that looks good. 3 in a row. Because you brought up Lord of the Rings. This is a more recent one. Like, the most... Because nowadays, it's like you go and see something, and if you see impressive CG, you're less likely to be like, wow, whoa! Because, you know, CG's pretty... We've pretty much got the gist of it at this point. But, like, the Planet of the Apes movies that they just did...
I've only seen the third one. But I remember seeing it in theaters. I'm like,
that one's the one that looks the most impressive.
Yeah, it's like the fucking apes' faces, and there's a big fucking, I think it's like a orangutan. I can't remember.
Yeah,
he looks amazing.
Yeah, he does, and it's like, holy shit! Like, they mastered it. Like, it looks like they're real apes that they've got, but it's all CG, and it's like, holy shit, that is fucking fantastic.
But early life, like the first ones I was impressed by were the prequels and Lord of the Rings.
Yeah. And those were like some of the bigger like movies that did well with their CG that kind of like got successful from what I remember at least.
Spider-Man 2 as well.
So yeah, the Spider-Man movies had pretty good fucking CG.
Doc Ock's like arms, they hold up. Like the last time I watched them, like those like hold up really well.
I can tell that they're CG, but I personally am a fan of like all the way it looks when he's like swinging through the sky, and it's obviously like CG in those movies when he's doing like all those sorts of tricks. But I thought it was like stylistic enough that I liked it.
Reminds me of a comic book.
Yeah.
I remember like some of the early superhero stuff, they haven't aged like well at all. Like especially like Ang Lee's Hulk. But I remember Ang Lee's Hulk, like, I thought it looked really cool when it first came out. Like, 2003, I think it looks good. I want to watch Ang Lee's Hulk soon.
I haven't watched it in so long. The only thing I remember...
I remember liking it.
I remember, like, the opening sequence when, like, there's, like, they're cutting the starfish, and then, like, the kid's, like, underneath Bruce, little baby Bruce is, like...
Under the table.
Yeah. Yep. And then I remember, like, a scene later where he's, like... walking through the street and he's mad and he's Hulk and there's like a tank shooting at him. That's like it. That's all I remember from it, really.
All right. Do you wish films would use less CGI and more practical effects? I mean, a lot of the movies coming out right now just, I don't feel can use practical effects. At least the ones that are coming out, like big blockbusters. A lot of them rely too heavily on like, I don't know.
I don't mind it so much of like superhero movies and like big blockbusters and stuff like that. And I think this, like, even though it might look better, I think I'd always prefer like digital special effects to like dangerous stunt work, like setting actors on fire and stuff. You know, the only genre where I wish practical effects would be more prevalent is like the horror genre, and that's where it is most prevalent still. Yeah. But that, because you'll get like monsters and, you know, creature features, and when it's CGI, it can be really just like badly done, because a lot of horror movies,
especially like, I don't understand the point of like low budget horror. They're like, we need a CGI monster. I'm like, you a fucking idiot.
Yeah. But there are like cases of like low budget horror movies that do like practical effects too, and those look bad. Yeah. But just having like a smart like effects designer who knows how to like light it right and get everything perfect for it, and knowing how much is too much when showing it really goes a long way. Like The Thing, that movie is like awesome, but you really don't see a whole lot of it in that movie. It's very short bursts. It's very like dimly lit when you do see it. So, but yeah, so I'm not too butthurt about it. I mean, I just, like, with horror specifically, I feel like I appreciate bad practical effects more than bad CGI. Like, I can enjoy bad practical effects because I think it, like, looks goofy in kind of an endearing way. Yeah. With, like, bad CGI, I'm just like, ugh. Yeah, definitely.
Okay, this is the most important question. How many jumbo marshmallows can you fit in your mouth?
Probably, like, 3, maybe.
I'm guessing, I have a big mouth. I'm guessing I can fit like 5 or 6. So you can probably fit 2 on each cheek, and depending if I'm like deep throating the marshmallows.
Yeah, if I was like 7. Going the extra 9 miles, I could probably fit 4. But
are you ready for Pierre's questions?
Oh, yeah, sure.
Are there any character design elements you universally love to see? For example, I love it when people have eye patches or false eyes. No?
There's nothing in particular that really resonates with me. I like unique, creative character designs, but nothing like particular.
Yeah, I don't really have anything either. Like when people have jetpacks. Just for no reason.
Yeah.
You watched a silent movie for the podcast, but would you ever watch a movie with no visuals and only audio? Fun fact. There's a movie called Blue. Have you heard of it?
I have not.
Okay. I almost picked it for the pick today.
Okay.
It's by this guy named Derek Jarman. He was a director. He did, like, Caravaggio, if you've heard of that.
I'm aware of who Caravaggio is, but...
The movie. Yeah, he did a movie called Jubilee. He was like he did a bunch of movies, but he got AIDS, and he was, like, dying. And Blue is a movie.
Oh, that's like where his eyes had progressed to, right? And
he was like pretty much blind.
I have heard of this.
Yeah, so Blue is just a single screen of, it's just blue. It's like one unchanging color of blue. And it's just pretty much like an audio of like people talking about like AIDS and stuff. And then he died like a couple months after the movie came out. But I've heard the movie's extremely fucking sad. because it is a documentary. And so I didn't pick it today because...
Yeah,
yeah. But I almost picked it today, and I thought that was really funny that Pierre asked that question. So yes, Pierre, I would watch a movie with no visuals and only audio. I guess one color is technically a visual. I guess without visuals, it's not really a movie. But that's the closest thing we'll get to. Because I probably will pick that eventually, maybe in a couple weeks.
Yeah, because I don't think we'll be picking any, like, radio dramas or anything like that.
Maybe one day.
Yeah, maybe. Who knows?
Do you think David Lynch ever read a book?
Yes.
Which books do you think he likes?
I know he's a fan of Kafka, like The Metamorphosis and stuff like that.
Does he... I'm not familiar with, like, the background of it, but did he like Dune? Like, did he want to direct Dune, or was he just given a lot of money?
I'm sure he probably had, like, some level of fascination with it. I haven't read Dune myself, but
me neither.
I know it's...
I should watch it. I'm going to before.
But I'm sure he was probably at least somewhat a fan, if I had to guess, but I don't know for certain.
He probably really likes the Hunger Games. Not really. Probably doesn't like them at all. But Twilight? David Lynch needs to direct Robert Pattinson.
He does. Oh, dude. Robert Pattinson could totally play like David Lynch. He's got like... I can totally see him having that.
David Lynch makes a biopic about himself.
With Robert Pattinson? Oh, I'd watch the shit out of that.
Yeah, Robert Pattinson could play David Lynch like pretty well.
Oh, yeah.
I think they're probably close to the same height, too. So I think David Lynch is about, 6 foot?
Yeah, maybe back in his prime. He might be a little shorter now with the age, but...
What? He's like 30, right?
I think so.
5'11". I don't know why, but Kyle MacLachlan always seems like a short person to me. Like, his face reminds me of a short person. But he's 6 foot.
Oh.
Like, doesn't he feel like he should be, like, not even maybe short, but, like, 5'5"?
No, I always got, like, at least, like, a 5'9" kind of from him.
Maybe I just think everyone's short.
I think everyone's tall because I'm short. So.
Yes. That's why we're called the Screen Weens.
Yeah.
That doesn't make any sense. All right. Let's fucking talk about Lee Chang-dong.
All right. Never mind. I was gonna say, should we read off our like guest rankings?
We'll talk about. So we did do last time when we talked about Agnes Varda. We did a ranking list where like, okay, this is what I think your favorites are gonna be, but we'll do that at the end because we have them written down. So
okay,
it's gonna be great. But let's talk a little bit about his life. So a crazy thing about him, he's 65 now, and he didn't make his first movie until he was 43.
Gives me hope.
Yeah, that makes me kind of really happy.
Yeah,
he was a teacher, a high school teacher.
He's a novelist too, isn't he?
He was a novelist. He was a pretty big novelist too.
I wonder if there are any like English translations of his work that. Like,
I assume so. I think he's big enough, like as a director, that I would assume that his novels would have been passed on.
Hopefully. But
yeah, he became a novelist in. He wrote his first book in I think 83, called Chonri, something like that. And then later in his career, to the surprise of many, like nobody expected him to start making movies. He's just like, I'm gonna go make Greenfish. He's like, Song Kang-ho!
Yeah.
With Song Kang-ho, in one of Song Kang-ho's early roles, he was in a couple things.
Yeah.
I think he started in 92 or 4.
I think it's 94.
And then he also wrote 2 screenplays. For a movie called To the Starry Island in 93, and A Single Spark in 95. And then he Single Spark won Best Film at the Blue Dragon Awards.
Yeah.
Which is like one of the big Korean film festivals. And he didn't study any filmmaking. Like, he was just like, I can do it. I'm a novelist. So he wrote those screenplays and he's like, now I'm going to direct my own movies. Mm. And like a lot of people were encouraging him because both those movies were like apparently really good. I don't think they've been released over here like at all, which is unfortunate because I want to see them.
Yeah.
But then he did make Greenfish, which we'll be talking about in a bit. And that won Best Film at Blue Dragon, which is crazy. Like when first time directors win like Best Film, that's like what?
Yeah.
It won the Dragons and Tigers Award at the Vancouver International Film Festival, which is a big deal. And like it got a bunch of notice. Peppermint Candy, which was his next one, a couple of years later, 2000. That one's told in reverse order. It's kind of epic. That one, a couple awards as well. Like pretty much every single one of his movies has been like critically acclaimed and won a ton of awards.
Makes sense.
Oasis in 2002.
Oh boy.
That one's the Silver Lion for Best Director at the Venice Film Festival, which is a pretty big deal. That's like the Joker one, the Golden Lion last year, which is very funny. Oasis was entered in the 75th Academy Awards as the best foreign language film for Korea. Didn't get nominated or anything, but it was entered.
Oh, okay.
Which is kind of it's still a big deal.
Yeah.
It was given a humanitarian award for the Vancouver International Film Festival. They're like, here's this award, which is, I guess, I don't really know what it is. I assume it's like movies that have a big empathetic impact, I guess. And then around this time is when fucking Roh Moo-hyun, I think Roh Moo-hyun, something like that. That was the president of South Korea from fucking 2003 to 2008. He was being supported by Chang-dong.
Yeah. And
once he won, he's like, okay, I want you to be the Minister of Culture and Tourism. And Chang-dong's like, I don't want to do that, but okay. Because they wanted a really big thing. They're like, we need to make sure that this thing is not part of the government. Like, they wanted somebody that was outside of the government to be, because they're talking about culture and tourism. So they're like, government, culture. He's culture. So he did that for 2 years, and he's like, I did not like it at all. And then he got the fucking... He got a Medal of Honor from France. From what I know about it, I'm not really familiar with it, but it's pretty much called the Legion of Honor. It's probably the closest thing the French have to like a knighthood. They're like, here you go, Li Chang-dong, because he was trying to maintain screen quotas. Are you familiar with the term screen quota?
No.
So it's like a government mandated thing that makes it so a film has to stay in theaters for a certain amount of time. Oh. And he was trying to do that for international films. Like, he was trying to make, he's like, we need to support independent, like, international people. So if a movie comes here, they have to stay for a certain amount of time. Mm-hmm. Which I think is like, great fucking idea.
Yeah.
I think that, like, theaters in general, I wish foreign markets were, like, much better for, like, foreign films here. I wish that, like, only half of the theater would play, like, movies from here and the other half would just play foreign films. That'd be great.
Yeah, because I hate whenever, like, a movie from another country finally makes its way over
and it's here for, like, a week.
Yeah. And it's like,
and even that week, it's like, here's 2 showings a day instead of, like, 8 or whatever.
Exactly.
Like, literally, Parasite had to win a Best Picture award to, like, still be going.
Exactly.
All right. Then he made Secret Sunshine in 2007. That went to the Cannes Film Festival. I don't think it won anything. Oh, the lead actress in Secret Sunshine won pretty much Best Actress there. They submitted it again for Best Foreign Film at the Academy Awards. Nothing happened, though. And then it won Best Picture at the Asia Pacific Screen Awards, the Asian Film Awards, Best Film, Best Director, and then Best Picture, Best Director at the Korean Film Awards. So that's really when the awards start piling in. He was... Then Lee Chang-dong's like, you know what I'm going to do next? I'm going to be a jury member at the Cannes Film Festival. So he did that the next year. And then he made Poetry, which is about an old lady.
Yeah.
That won a screenplay award at Cannes. More awards kept rolling in. And then he took 8 years off. Do you want to explain why? Because you did research that, right?
No, I actually looked at just the stuff of like the president, and then I had looked at that screen quota thing.
Oh, okay.
I remember them explaining like the foreign films staying in the theaters for a certain amount of time.
So from 2010 to 2018, he didn't really make anything. He was done after Poetry. He took a hiatus. A lot of it was the South Korean government like did not like him for trying to maintain screen quotas. Like they're like pissed at him. And apparently the South Korean government like does still kind of blacklist certain actors and actresses they do not like. But it's harder to do that with a director because they're like, I'm making my own movie. Yeah. So he's like, even though he could theoretically do it, he just didn't feel the drive to make a lot of the movies. I was reading a fucking interview with him after Poetry came out, and he's like, I have a couple ideas, but I'm not sure what I'm going to do next. And then I was reading another interview after Burning came out. He's like, yeah, I just didn't go anywhere with those ideas, which is unfortunate because the two ideas he was throwing around were one that set in the apocalypse and another one about a samurai. And I'm like, both of those sound really cool from this director. Like specifically having him make a movie in the apocalypse would be great.
Yeah.
And then Burning is one of the like more important films looking at the Academy Awards, because although Parasite was like a huge deal because it won, Burning, which just came out 2 years ago, was the first Korean film that was even like nominated for Best Foreign Film, if I'm reading that correctly. So like that paved the way for Parasite to win, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Which took a while. Like they kept submitting great fucking movies. They're like, let us in. The Academy's like, the Green Book. Green Book.
Was that same year, wasn't it?
No. Oh wait.
Yeah, 2018.
Yeah. Green Book. Green Book. Green Book. Green Book.
Oh, come on. Of course you like fried chicken.
You're black. You people love fried chicken. And yeah. And we'll see where he goes next. But Lee Chang-dong, super left-leaning. As you can tell. What's interesting is he was born in a super conservative town.
Just like
Secret Sunshine.
Exactly.
Yeah. Daegu, or maybe Taegu. Probably saying that wrong, but it's apparently a pretty fucking conservative place, right-leaning. Apparently the most conservative and rightist city in Korea. And he was born to lower-class parents, which is what's interesting is they were pretty far-leaning left, but they were just living in the city. And his dad came from, like, a noble class of like the old Korea. So what's interesting is like he was growing in an ex-noble family with socialist ties in a super right-leaning community. And a lot of the experiences he probably had as a child shaped how, especially like Secret Sunshine. I feel like Secret Sunshine out of all of his films is the most about him. Even though the main character is a woman.
Yeah.
That and Burning. Specifically, I have a couple things to talk about Burning from interviews as well when we get to there. And then, yeah, he won the election. He helped the president. He's like, go support Romo Yun!
And then the president killed himself.
Yeah, after office, like an hour, like
couple
a
years
year.
later.
No, it was like a year.
Oh, was it?
Yeah. He jumped off a cliff and then he didn't die right then, but he died of the injuries later on.
Yeah, left a little suicide.
Yeah, so during the term in which he was a minister of culture, he was like, we should have a screen quota for independent films. But his proposal met with fierce opposition by the Korean movie industry. I don't actually even know if it was for... I think it was just for, maybe not international, maybe just independent films. But the movie industry is like, no! No! No!
I think it was for classic films, wasn't it? Like he wanted to like have like a certain...
Possibly. I know he did...
Quota,
the quota specifically was for independent films, but he probably proposed that as well. And that's why he won the fucking Knight thing. The Legion of Honor.
Epic. I'd give it to him for that.
I would too. Because I'm pretty sure France does have a screen quota.
Makes sense there.
There's a lot of countries that do. And I don't know what the fuck we're doing here. We should have one. If we're having big government do things, help them ensure that small movies can stay in theaters.
Well, it's because half our country doesn't believe in big government. They're like, no.
Which is fine. Well, if we don't believe in big government, get rid of it. But if we have it, have them do something good. And then the Blue Dragon Awards he started not going to. Did you read that part?
I did skim past that.
Because the fucking newspaper that holds the award is like a conservative place. And he's like, fuck you. And then since 2002, his films haven't been submitted. Because they'd probably win. But he's like made it very clear. He's like, I still support people going to it. Like, specifically directors and people going.
I bet he's like peering over at Parasite right now. And he's like, oh shit, I gotta win that award now. It's over. He's like, I gotta make all those fucking Americans cry.
Yeah, but then, and he's wrote a couple things. And I want to read them all.
Yeah, me too.
Okay. Let me see if I got anything else in my notes. I think most of these are... Oh! There was an interesting thing from that interview about poetry. Mm-hmm. He talks about how poetry's dying, but people are like going after this dying art form. Specifically in like Korea, he sees a lot of poetry dying, and there are certain countries he's been to where like nobody reads poetry anymore. He's like, this is a dying art form, and he talks about how film in ways is as well. Because he's like, there are films that are going huge right now. And he talks specifically about Avatar. And he's like, but that's not what movies I make. I make like these small movies that are getting destroyed by movies like Avatar.
Yeah. And he was just like right around the corner from like the, big like Avengers blockbuster boom. I mean, obviously he makes films in South Korea, but eventually that would...
Yeah. I mean, South Korea does have big blockbusters as well that are, more action-based and stuff, so...
I wasn't sure how long it... Like, if that was going before, or
I don't know.
It would correlate over with, like, how it did over here.
But, yeah, so he's like, it's a dying art form. But the thing is, like, at the end of the day, I think that he'll be remembered for movies like that are made to evoke emotion and shit.
Yeah.
While Avatar's just gonna be looked at for the video effects work, and that's like it. Because it's not a great movie.
Yeah.
Like, a lot of people don't even fucking remember Avatar anymore. Like, at least, like...
I saw it once in 2009, and I didn't go see it in theaters. I saw it, like, on my TV at home.
I saw it, I think, twice in theaters, but that's just because, like, somebody in my family really liked it. And they were like, oh, it's so good! And I do think it looked good, but that's about it.
I thought it looked alright. You know, it looks pretty good, I'm sure. I mean, I haven't looked at it in, like, over 10 years, but I'll rewatch it before the sequel comes out.
There was another interview with him where he was talking about other directors. They were specifically talking about Bong Joon-ho, Hong Sang-soo, which is that guy who made The Day the Pig Fell into the Well, and those types of movies, and Park Chan-wook. And they're like, do you see like similarities between your directing styles? And he's like, yeah, but he talks about how Bong Joon-ho and Park Chan-wook make more cinematic films. Or like that's their goal.
Yeah,
while
his films are like much more naturalistic.
But I actually like, I don't know, like he says that the aim for going for a more cinematic, but I don't actually think I agree. Is at least for Bong Joon-ho, because I think Bong Joon-ho, like, his intent is pretty much very similar to Lee Chang-dong. Like, he wants to make films about the characters. And Bong Joon-ho is just fine with making movies that take those characters on journeys, while Lee Chang-dong's like, journey, but at home.
I think I see what you're saying, and I think that they both do focus on very like character-centric stories.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I'd say that Lee Chang-dong has a much more like I said, naturalistic kind of like presentation of his films, while Bong Joon-ho does go for like more cinematic.
Especially, I guess this also makes sense because I think this might have been the poetry one, which is right around like when Snowpiercer came out. And Snowpiercer.
Particularly, like, Greenfish had some interesting, like, use of, like, color, and Burning, I thought, had some pretty interesting, like, kind of cinematic elements to it, like, especially with, like, some of the blues that they would use.
Yeah.
But
I mean, there's some pretty good shots of all of them, I would say, but a lot of it isn't going for, like, it's not aiming to wow you, it's aiming to
capture a realistic tone, and I'd say like that's like kind of like the middle of his body of work in between those two films is mostly that kind of filmmaking.
Yeah. I mostly just think it's interesting that a lot of people group Bong Joon-ho and Park Chan kind of in the same area as like similar directors, when I would say that like Park Chan-wook is a lot closer of a director to someone like Kim Ji-woon, who did like I Saw the Devil. I know you haven't seen that one.
I think I've only seen Stoker from Park Chan-wook.
Oh, fuck, okay. You haven't seen Old Boy yet?
No, I haven't seen Old Boy yet.
And then Kim Ji-woon also did The Good, the Bad, the Weird. Mm. But they both make kind of, I would say those are closer to be like more cinematic experiences and stuff. Bong Joon-ho, I think, is a lot closer to Lee Chang-dong. And I think that Hong Sang-soo is also close to them. I haven't seen any of his movies yet, though. And you watched half of The Day the Pig Fell into the Well.
Yeah.
And then you're like, I don't like Koreans.
No, it was one of those things where I paused it and
then never came back.
I'm
like, I'm going to bed.
It's made up of, like, vignettes. So I, like, finished a vignette, and then I had left off, and then I didn't have that, like, cliffhanger where I'm like, oh, what's going to happen next?
You're like, I completed a story. I'm done. That's the danger of watching, like, anthology films or vignette-based stories and, like, leaving for a second, like, pausing it, because you're like, oh, I'm done with that story. I don't really want to get into another one.
Exactly. It's like, oh, man, I could just play a game of, like, Fortnite, right?
All right. Now we're in And I guess we should talk about the actual movies.
Yes.
Okay, so we got Greenfish to talk about. Peppermint Candy, Oasis, Secret Sunshine, Poetry, and Burning. Let's start off with Greenfish, which, at least to me, was probably the least emotional journey for me. Like, it was still sad, but it didn't, like, shock me to the core.
Yeah, there were things about this movie that did kind of, like, catch me off guard. Like, I was kind of expecting it to build up this one way. And this is the first movie of his I watched. So this is... I wasn't quite sure what to expect from this director.
Oh, I also had a weird watch order. So
I watched them all in order except Poetry and Secret Sunshine. I like swapped. So
okay. So you watched Burning last?
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess I should go over my order. So I had already seen Secret Sunshine, so I was at least familiar with his directing style a little bit. I didn't know if all of them were going to be this sad because I had only seen one. I'm like, okay. Then they all work.
Directs depression.
Yeah, he's like, I only do this. I only make sad movies. This is what I do.
Yeah.
But I watched Poetry first.
Okay.
And then I'm like, oh, this is what he does.
Yes.
And then I watched Oasis, and I'm like, oh, this is what he does.
Yeah.
And then I watched Burning, and I'm like, oh, this is what he does. And then Greenfish. Greenfish was my fourth one, so I'm like, okay. And then Peppermint Candy, which for most of it, I'm like, okay. And then, like, the last scene fucking ties the movie together. I know we're skipping ahead, but the last scene of the movie ties it all together for me.
What you just said about Peppermint Candy pretty much expresses my whole... Because I was watching, and 99% of the movie, I'm like, this is all right.
What, Peppermint Candy?
Yeah, and then that final scene happens. I'm like, holy shit, I really liked that.
Yeah, I don't like... And I liked the pieces, and I know we're skipping ahead one movie, but I liked the pieces in Peppermint Candy enough by themselves. And I was like, this is a decent movie. And then, like, it jumped up multiple points for me with the final scene. I'm like,
those like final two scenes where it's like you really get a sense of like
it's like you're making a painting like in reverse or something, like in the sand kind of thing, and they flip it over and it reveals the painting.
Yeah,
like you don't really see how anything's like connected. Like you can see it, you can see the pieces, but until they flip it and you see the finished product, it doesn't really work in my opinion. And then suddenly it all works.
Yeah.
And that's why I think, like, Peppermint Candy's so fucking fascinating in the way it's made. Like, the reverse I can't fucking talk today. Jesus Christ. I'm very tired.
So am I.
But, Jesus, that movie was
I really liked all the shots of, like, when it would, like, be moving backwards, and we just get that train. Shot of the train moving backwards. But, alright, let's
and then I watched Greenfish, Peppermint Candy, and Secret Sunshine was my last one, because I thought it would be fun. Because I watched it first originally, and so... Okay, so Greenfish. Do you want to talk about this one? Or do you want to talk about Peppermint Candy?
I can talk about Greenfish. I probably remember this one a bit more. I watched pretty much all of these movies back to back, so I'm probably just going to be talking a lot of, like, general plot points, because I've just got out of 6 hours of pure Lee Chain.
Did you just finish Burning?
Like, it was like maybe 7 when I finished it, so.
Jesus. Okay.
So they're all still very fresh with me, so I'm still kind of like digesting a lot of it. And I didn't have time to like sit after each movie and be like, yes, this is what I think. So a lot of it was just like, all right, I finished that one. On to the next one immediately. So, Greenfish begins. I don't remember the main character's name, but he's returning home from his term in the military. He's kind of just looking out. He's on a train, and he's like looking out the window. And he kind of...
Dong.
What was it?
Dong.
Dong. And he looks out the window and he sees this woman there, and she like her scarf gets blown away in the wind and it like hits him in the face. So he's like, oh, okay, let me go return this scarf to her. And he does, and she's being harassed by a group of guys. So he comes in, he's like, hey guys, what's the deal here, you know?
She like runs off and
then they
like, bother him. And they just start kicking the shit out of him.
They beat the shit out of him. So he goes into the bathroom and washes his bloody face with this lady's scarf. And
then he puts it over his face and then just starts breathing. He's like... The scarf is just going into his mouth. I'm like, what the fuck is going on?
Yeah. So then he takes it home. Or no. So he gets off the train.
So specifically, the train parks and he grabs like a big, like, I don't know what it was. It was like a trophy or something out of his bag. And he goes and he hits one of them in the head as the train starts moving, as if he's going to just jump back on the train. He just wants to like hit him in the head and then jump back on.
He almost does.
He almost does, but he misses the train. So then he just runs off. And he left his bag on there, obviously.
Yeah. So he takes that scarf home and like washes it, and it's like out on like the clothing line outside. And yeah, so he's like told that some lady called, and he's like, oh, who was it? It's his mom or his aunt or his grandma. I don't fucking remember. I watched this movie a few days ago, but it's an old lady who took the call for him. It's like, I don't know, but she left a number, so he calls the number back, but he doesn't get a response.
I believe it was his mom, because this is the same point when he finds out his mom's, like, working, and, like, all his parents, he's like, you shouldn't be working, I'll provide for you. Like, from the very beginning, he's like, I'm going to help provide. I'm going to help. And I'm going to provide for everybody so you don't have to work. Because I think his sister's, like, maybe a prostitute? Or at least is, like, hanging out with men. He's like, what you doing? Don't go to them.
Yeah.
Like, they never really say anything, but...
Yeah, they says some form of sex work.
And then the only person that doesn't work in his family is his oldest brother, who is mentally disabled.
Yeah. But they have, like, a family. Right? Yeah. It's a ramen shop?
Yeah, they have a small little shop. I think it's a ramen shop. Or,
yeah. Some cuisine.
Some type of food. Or I guess his sister's just working as a hostess, but she was just like being really flirty with the guy. So I assumed that when I first saw her, like that's what I was assuming. Is like, is she going to have sex with him? But I guess not. I guess she's just the hostess.
Oh yeah, I guess she was because he chases her out of the restaurant.
But he's like driving around with his buddy. He's do you remember this is the movie with the fucking egg cart, right?
Yeah.
So they're driving around an egg cart trying to sell eggs, and then they get pulled over because his friend
was like ran
a red light, and he's like, "Listen, I'll give you." It's pretty much the equivalent of like $10.
Yeah.
But just don't pull us over. And the guy's like, or no, he says he'll give him $5. He's like, oh, okay. He's like, I only have 10 and I need lunch. Can you give me change to the police officer? And the police like, yeah, sure. And then gets in his car and just starts driving away. So then he's like, I fucking refuse. I need my money back. So they start chasing the cop car and using the egg. Like they have their own little siren that they use to go like, buy some eggs. And they're like, pull over.
Yeah.
So, like, that was probably the funniest scene in any of the movies to me.
Yeah.
Because, like, this
might be
film itself might be, like, the funniest, I guess, or, like, the most humorsome.
Yeah.
I like some of the karaoke scenes Song Kang-ho does in Secret Sunshine are kind of funny.
Yeah. And anytime Song Kang-ho is in one of these movies, it's
actually, but I would say Greenfish has the most humor.
Yeah. It definitely does. Most of his movies are pretty devoid of humor, if I'd say so.
Like, I think there's glimpses of them every couple
I laughed minutes, a lot, but
it was like was it that kind of laughter?
It was like
I'm uncomfy.
Yeah, like the one scene specifically
I'm in danger.
Where I just started like laughing was during the scene the church crying scene in Secret Sunshine. I was just like burst in the laughter.
All right.
It was just my natural reaction.
But he eventually meets that girl again that he got the scarf from.
Yeah, he sees her at like a club that she's singing at.
Yeah. And she's like, hey, I have your stuff. And he's like, oh, cool. And then she's like walking out, and he's walking with her. And then a car pulls up.
Some guards are like, hey, where are you going? Get
She's
back
like,
over.
I'm with my new boyfriend. They're like, what? Who is that? What are you talking about?
Yeah.
This is my new boyfriend. And then they grab her and like throw her in the car.
And he kind of...
And he's like tries to help, and then they like immediately like throw him against the wall.
Yeah.
And then
Song
he starts
Kang-ho.
trying. And then Song Kang-ho walks up. He's like, do you have a lighter?
Yeah.
He's like, no. He's like, fuck you.
No, he has a light.
Oh, he has a lighter?
Yeah,
Oh,
he has a
okay.
light in this scene.
And then, yeah. But then suddenly the car like pulls up again, like a couple minutes later he's walking and it's them again. And she's all happy all of a sudden. She's like, hey.
Get in.
And
so he does.
He does. And the guy's like, hey, do you have any skills? And he's like, no. He's like, do you have any dreams? He's like, no.
He's like, what the fuck is it with
He's
you
like,
young people?
You young people.
Never having any dreams.
Li Chang-dong very obviously has a problem with old people.
Who doesn't?
Like in any of his movies, he's like, you know what I hate? Old people telling young people what to do. Yeah. And I'm like, Li Chang-dong's fucking cool. Like, he's a nice, like, Li Chang-dong's old. He's like 65.
Well, yeah.
But he's like, he's hip. Yeah. He gets it.
He's a cool.
He gets the struggle.
Yeah, so he gets in and they're basically like, all right, well, go apply at this car.
Yeah, here, tell them I told you to come here. So he does, and he gets a job.
Yeah, and I like the scene because it's like, they're like, how do you know this guy? And he's like, I just do. I just know him from around.
And they're like, oh, okay.
Sure, whatever.
So they hire him, and it's pretty obvious that the guy he was with is like a mafia boss.
Yeah.
Like, from the get-go, it's like, or at least a criminal.
Yeah,
like,
some sort of crime syndicate head.
So he's like, this isn't good.
Yeah.
But
immediately he, the girl that he likes, what's her name?
Mie, I believe. Mie.
Isn't that the name of the girl from Burning as well?
It's Mihei in that. There's an H.
Oh, my bad.
But yes.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, it's Mie in this and Mihei in that.
However, could I mix those two up?
I don't know. You must be an idiot.
So, so Mie, like, pulls in on his first day, and he goes over, like, he's gonna go greet her, but she's just straight up crying in her car. So he's like, oh, I'll just hide around this corner, and then I'll say hi to her. But she just kind of, like, ignores him. He's like, oh, okay. And then another car pulls up that has, like, some of the bosses, like, goons in it.
Song
Kang-ho particularly.
And
like, hey,
he's like, hey, give me the keys. And they're like, no. And he's like, what are you doing? Give me the keys.
yeah, this is my job. Give me the keys. And then his boss is like, no, it's okay.
But then he gets in a fight with Song Kang-ho.
Yeah, Song Kang-ho's like, hey, give me a light. And then this is the point where I think he doesn't have a lighter.
Maybe.
One of these times he doesn't have a lighter.
I don't know. I don't even remember
time.
why this fight occurred, but it happened. And I was thinking during this, I'm like...
It's because Song Kang-ho's like, hey, you know me. You gotta greet me properly.
He's like, fuck you, asshole.
He's like, what?
He's like, what did you just say? Get over here.
So
and then
Song
they get into a
Kang-ho
tussle.
starts beating up on him, and then he turns around, and then he gives him the board to the back.
Yeah, they're like going back and forth for like a minute, and then like he punches the guy in the face, and they're like, stop it.
And everyone finds that pretty funny.
Yeah, and then the main character just grabs a fucking 2x4 and just hits Song Kang-ho on the back.
Everyone thinks that's really funny.
And
so.
they pretty much just give him a better job because of it.
Oh, yeah, come join the gang, you know?
So, like, he works for that car place for like 2 days.
Yeah.
He's like, now I work for the mafia. Which I'm like, that's not good, man.
Yeah, no.
And the main guy's like, the main mob boss is like, we're not doing anything illegal. I'm like, I don't know about that one.
Yeah. So, he joins this gang. and progressively gets closer to the boss's girlfriend. And it's like a weird situation because she's like allowed to sleep with like other guys. In fact, it's kind of encouraged. She's kind of like
she's kind of
sex
used,
object used by like this gang of guys. Like all the other like gang members sleep around with her, but the only person who she hasn't slept with is the main character, whose name is unfortunately slipped my mind again.
Chang-dong, I believe.
Chang-dong, yeah.
Chang-dong.
And you know he's a real shy guy. You know he's probably got his V card if I had to guess.
Probably, but he wants to really impress his boss, so he needs to incite a fight between him and like a councilman or something that's like trying to bring this guy down.
Yeah,
so he goes in the bathroom and he fucking breaks his own fingers in the bathroom stall. That scene specifically, like the fingers looked pretty good.
They did.
I was like, whoa, look at that.
I was like, oh shit, they must have set up that hand like right before that shot or something.
Or maybe they just actually broke his fingers.
Yeah, because they show him like putting like the hand up and then like shutting it in the door, and I was like, oh damn.
Yeah. And then he like he keeps calling the councilman like,
he's like,
he does do karaoke.
Oh, that's right.
There's karaoke in every scene, every movie.
Okay, yeah. Because
so
he's like, you should never sing
and
again.
he's like, if you ever sing again, you're not human.
And the dude's like, all right, I get it.
Calm down. He's like, no, you don't. And he's like, what the fuck is your problem? He pushes him. And he's like, you want to fight? And he tries to like fight him. And then he like the next time he pushes him over, he's like, oh, you broke my head. He's like screaming.
Yeah, he's like literally crying, and then the other gang's just coming in like, hey,
wow, look what you did. And he's like, you tricked me. Like, what do you mean?
Yeah. And then the boss kind of scolds him for being reckless.
Yeah, he's like, you shouldn't have broken your fucking hand for that.
Yeah.
But then because he does that, he's like, call me Big Brother. Or like, which pretty much like, it translates to Big Brother or like a more endearing version of boss kind of thing. And fucking Song Kang-ho at this point, plays this guy named Pan-soo, I believe, or Pan-soo.
Yeah.
He's kind of pissed about this. He's like, I had to call you like boss for like a year before you let me call you Big Brother. And he's been here like 3 days.
Yeah.
And then he's really mad at Song Kang-ho and starts like beating the shit out of him. He's like, sorry. And the biggest problem I have with this movie is I think they should have had Pan-soo be more of a character. Because there's some really interesting stuff about like the interesting dynamics between those two.
There's one point where I thought they were taking his character in one direction. I was like, ooh, I like this. And then they don't really do anything.
Yeah. Like, I would have loved the movie if they had, like, kind of dual protagonists, like, telling two different stories kind of thing and how they intersect. And I felt like they were kind of trying to do that, like, insert him more into the story on occasion. And then they just didn't do enough with him. That was my biggest. And I can't tell if that was just me wanting more Song Kang-ho. Because I think he's great in the movie. He's very fun.
No, they definitely, like, even without the context of, like, oh, this is Song Kang-ho, the greatest actor who ever lived. You know, they, like, definitely build his character up to be a more antagonistic foil to the main character.
Yeah, and then he just kind of fizzles out of the story in the third act. And then he's just suddenly like, no, I'm on the other team!
Yeah, and that's where I thought they were going to start taking him into a more interesting direction, but he basically just kind of
disappears after that scene.
And it's like, well, damn. Okay.
But right around this time, him and Mie are kind of falling in love.
Yeah, they make out on a train in one scene.
Yep.
After she basically expresses, I've slept with everyone but
this
you.
This is a really important scene, too. Because, like, this is where they realize that they both feel, like, isolated, even surrounded by people, and hopeless. Yeah. Because he's like, I want to be able to support my family, but right now I can't even live with, like, I want to be able to live with them, but I can't because I'm working here, and I'm making money to send them, but then he gives them the picture of his home with the big tree. And which is very important for the ending of it.
We also, I think, skimmed over the scene where, like, she's performing and she, like, somebody in the crowd had, like, made a comment at her so she kind of like...
and she like because she was like drunk on stage because she's obviously being emotionally abused as well and used like
physically as well.
Yeah. And so she like froze up. So then he just starts beating the shit out of the guy.
Yeah, he just goes up and he like busts a bottle.
He breaks a bottle.
Like, I'm a crazy motherfucker.
I want to fucking go. And I'm like, wow.
Yeah.
What if Nick Cage was in this movie?
What if? So that's kind of like what instigates the scene on the train where they like open up and he like gives her the photo and they make out. And then, she's like, you can walk me home or whatever, you know. And he doesn't really take the bait. He's just like,
Oh yeah, it is revealed that Mok-Dong's a virgin. They say it. They like say it.
Oh, okay. I didn't quite remember that part. But yeah, you can tell that he's got like this kind of like love triangle going because it seems like there's like part of him that likes the boss, but he feels obviously conflicted because like obviously the boss shows him a lot of approval throughout the film.
It's like it's this weird dynamic where he's trying to gain approval, but he also is in love with Mie, who's very obviously being abused by this guy,
and is obviously like a item of possession for him.
Like this is around the scene where they send her to go have sex with like a prosecutor, and like he makes her drink and shit. It's just like ugh. And Mok-Dong sees like the main guy. I think his name's Bae Tae-gon or something like that. He like beats her pretty much. So
yeah,
but this is the scene where like things start to change for the main boss because his like former boss shows up.
It's his brother, isn't it? I guess maybe it's the language.
It's just.
I thought it was his literal older brother.
No, it's this guy named Kim. I'll just call him Kim. He shows up and he's been in like prison for a while, and he's pretty much wants to take over the whole neighborhood that Bae has made. And
he's like, take back all.
He's like, fuck that.
Yeah. But he's not very good at defying or standing up against him. He just basically any offensive move that he makes, he just kind of like rolls over. And
he's just getting pretty much humiliated over and over again, and
to the point where even his men are like, "Well, fuck this."
Pansu. This is the part where Pansu changes over, and they go over to his big bar or restaurant or whatever he has.
Because he builds it right across the street.
Yeah, and then they go back to Bae's place and everything's destroyed. And then he takes Mok-Dong up to like a roof or something and they talk about his dream and he finally reveals his dream. He's like, I want to support my brother and my family and I want to live with them and have our restaurant. And then he's like, I need to do this for my boss. So he goes to the other guys, the Kim's club, and he goes in the bathroom as he's in there, and he kills him.
Yeah.
He has like, I think it's just like a giant shard of glass or a giant knife wrapped in newspaper.
Yeah. And just stabs him
stabs him over and over again.
And drags him over to a bidet.
Yeah. No, that's a toilet.
Oh, is it?
Yeah. That's just what toilets look like.
Oh.
They're just on the ground.
I'm just...
Uncultured.
Uncultured, yeah.
They don't have stalls with bidets.
I don't know.
I just they like throw him in there, and there's a drunk guy that comes out, and he's like trying to wash away all the blood, and he's like freaking out. He's like screaming, and this seems like I thought was really good.
Yeah.
I was like, like somebody that's like never killed somebody before, and like he's like ah, and then this next scene, he immediately goes to a phone booth. This is the most famous scene from the movie. Like this is especially in South Korea. Like this is a really big scene. And he calls his older brother and he's like, do you remember the green fish? And he has this big monologue that was all pretty much improvised. Mr. Lee Chang-dong like loves writing his movies and stuff, but he's like, I want you to do this. So he pretty much just let him go. Like there were talking points obviously, but most of it was just the main character, the main actor.
Yeah.
And I thought that scene was fantastic. So
Yeah.
I was a big fan.
And then we get the next scene where the boss...
Yeah, the boss shows back up, and fucking... Apparently he shoots him. I thought he stabbed him, but...
Yeah, I had to retake it because it's just... We see them in a dark
in total darkness, so, like, they're, like, in an alley or, like, below a building.
And you hear this noise, and the sound design for it sounds like the sound design for as if, like... he had gotten shoved into, like, a shelf or something. Like, it didn't sound very much like a gunshot to me. Like, it needed, like, more, like, reverb and echo, I guess. It was just kind of like a loud, like, bang. And it didn't have...
That's why I thought, like, he was, like, stabbed and he hit something or something.
Yeah. And then he, like, comes out, and it's
Bae gets back in the car with Mie. He, like, brought her to kill him.
Yeah.
And, like... Chang-dong comes out and she's like, "What the fuck happened?"
And he basically just comes out and dies on their windshield to stare him
and he's like
in the eyes.
He's like on the window and he's just breathing the clouds, smoking up the... I'm like, yikes. And then the final scene is like months later.
Yeah. She's pregnant at this point.
And they visit his house because they have a restaurant. And she doesn't know it's his house.
Yeah.
And they're eating.
And it also leaves the question, it's like, could it potentially be his kid?
His kid, yeah.
Because there's a scene where we don't see them sleep together.
But they're like laying next to each other, and it's implied they may have.
Yeah. And she's, they go to this, the brother's house.
Yeah, and they're like having a good time, and then she walks outside and she sees this giant tree, and a look of realization starts to go across her face, and she like runs to the car and empties out her bag and finds the picture, and then just like is sobbing, and the movie ends.
Yeah, like the husband gets in the car and they drive away. That's it. It's over.
Yeah. I mean, like, obviously that ending's very sad. Like, the last couple scenes are very sad. But, like, the other movies are, like, super sad throughout, while Greenfish has, like, a sense of...
Yeah, because this is the one that, like, hit me the most, because I totally thought it wasn't building to be this just depressing movie. I thought...
Because I had watched 3 others, I was like, fine. I'm like, look at this, he's got, like, the egg card, this is fun.
Like, I figured he would end up, like... I don't know if he would have, like, joined with the opposing guy to, like, try and get this guy like taken out or like worked under him just to try and get it so that the boss is killed and he can live free with Hie, what's her name? Mie. And maybe like Son Kang-ho was gonna become more conflict once he like traded sides again.
Yeah.
But they didn't go that route. Like it went the complete opposite where he's like, oh, I'm gonna kill this guy instead. Then, obviously, it ended how it ended. And I was like, oh, fuck. Wasn't expecting that.
Yeah. As soon as he killed the other mob boss, I'm like, oh, no, he's going to die, too. Yeah. I'm like, no. Don't do this to me. But this movie, there's some really good... in the latter half. I thought the first half looked fine, but the latter half, there's a scene where he has sunglasses on, and he's, like, using a lighter, and you see the reflection in his sunglasses. I thought that scene looked really cool. Like, it was a really nice shot. And I really like a lot of the music in this movie as well. A lot of it is, like, jazz, or, like, a lot of horn-heavy stuff, and I thought it fit the aesthetic of the movie, like, it kind of feels like a gangster movie, in the sense that it felt like Lee Chang-dong had seen Scorsese films before and kind of made the mob bosses play off of a movie like that, I would say.
Yeah.
So, and I always think that jazz is a good thing to tie in with gangster movies. I think adds the aesthetic pretty well.
Yeah, definitely. Shady.
Even though gangsters don't really listen to jazz. I don't know that. I don't know many gangsters besides you.
Dude. We're more of a hip-hop community.
Yeah. Good to know.
Yeah.
Yeah, but the biggest problem... I really like the movie, at least personally.
Same.
the biggest problem is I do think that Song Kang-ho, like Pan-soo, I think could have been a fucking amazing character. Like, and I wish that Mie had a little more characterization as well.
Yeah.
There's some early stuff that's really good and some later stuff, but I felt like she was kind of just washed away and it all, and not to the point where it's like was adding to it. Like there's obviously characters in other movies that are kind of washed away. Mm-hmm. But that adds to the main character's journey, and I don't think that really happened here.
Yeah.
But I really enjoyed it. I mean, as much as I could enjoy it.
Yeah.
I had a good time, I guess. I liked it.
There we go.
I personally am going to give this one a 7.
I give it an 8.
Wow! Uh-oh. Uh-oh.
Uh-oh.
That means that, I don't know, maybe you gave all of these an 8. Okay. So that's 7.5 for us. Peppermint Candy.
Peppermint Candy.
So what's interesting, Peppermint Candy was my least favorite for most of it. And then by the end of it, I'm like, never mind! like,
yeah. I definitely feel what you're saying on that to a certain extent.
Fuck.
So...
I was like, whoa, dude. So, and that's the genius of how he made the movie. So the movie opens with the main character, who's the main character in Oasis. Same actor.
Oh, okay.
And he's a fucking great actor.
Yeah.
So the main character, let me check his name. Kim Yong-ho. Yong-ho. That's what they call him, Yong-ho. So Yong-ho opens up with him. He's like in a river, pretty much. He's just walking around. He's by some train tracks. There's a group of people he used to know around. And he goes up and he like starts partying with them. They're already doing karaoke.
Yep.
Opens up with them doing karaoke. And he's doing karaoke with them, and he sings the song. He's like screaming it. He's obviously very depressed. He's like screaming the song. He's like, "Why did you leave me?
Yeah.
Why don't you love me?" That's not actually the song, but it's pretty similar in tone.
Akin to that.
And then he goes up on the train tracks, and they're like, "Oh, he's just messing around." But then they think he's gonna die. But then there's 2 train tracks and the train goes on the other one.
Yeah.
And then one of the other guys is like, "Come on, you've been up there for too long, get down." And then another train comes and he's like, "No." And then he just looks at the train and screams. And then it like pauses on his face right before he dies.
Yeah.
And then it's like, "Peppermint Candy." And then it starts. And the movie is told through reverse chronological order. Mm-hmm. So it starts with his death. He dies, and then it starts going backwards from 99, and we end up all the way in, I think, 80.
Yeah, something like
it's a 20-year period, pretty much. So, what was the last... Oh, so it happens 3 days before. He gets a... He's kind of just walking around, being a weirdo. He goes and buys something from this suspicious guy. We don't know what it is yet. He just has kind of a bag. And he goes and pretty much just steals food from someone. He's like, "Oh, I don't have any money."
Yeah.
And I'm like, "Well, that was kind of rude."
And then we find out what he tried to buy. It was a gun.
Yeah, he bought a gun. And he points at his hand. He's like, and I'm like, "Ah!" But I'm like, well, I know he doesn't kill himself now because I saw him.
Doesn't have any bullets.
But he does, and he goes and buys some, right? Or
yeah, he does.
He gets some.
And then he tries to shoot his boss.
He tries to shoot his... We don't even really know who this guy is.
I assumed it was his boss.
And some guy's driving out, and he's suddenly there, and he shoots, and he misses.
Yeah.
And then he runs off. And then as he's going home to his weird fucking shack he has, this kind of bigger guy shows up, and he's like, "Hey, are you Young Ho?"
And he's like,
"Yeah, who the fuck are you?" He's like, "Can we talk inside?" And they start talking, and he pulls his gun. He's like, "Who the fuck are you?"
He's like, "Well,
And he doesn't say it yet, but he's like, let me tell you my story. He's like, I'm going to kill myself, but I'm not going to go alone, so who should I kill? And then he briefly says, like, the people that fucked him over.
Yeah, like stockbrokers, his ex-wife.
His ex-wife, on him. Stockbrokers that, like, lost all his money, and his boss who, like, laid him off or something like that. Like, those are the three. And he's like, so who should I kill? And he's like, hey, do you remember... What was her name?
I don't remember her name. I didn't...
Sunim.
Sunim?
Sunim. Sunim, probably. He's like, do you remember Sunim? He's like, he like couldn't remember her at first.
He's like, you two used to like each other.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh.
He's like, oh yes. And he's like, she's about to die.
She wants to see you.
And
I'm her husband.
Yeah.
Like,
so they do go to the hospital together.
And
I'm like, wow, this husband's pretty understanding. That guy just pulled a fucking gun on him.
Yeah. He's probably had just been dealing with his own depression for a week, and then he comes to this other depressed guy's place, and he's like, I'm depressed, I've got a gun. And he's like, dude, I get it. I've been there.
Yeah, just fucking shit. But they get there, and she's like pretty much slipped into a coma. Like she's going to die, so he can't really...
She's still like conscious.
Yeah, they think she's still conscious, but she can't really talk or anything. And
we find out at the end of the scene. She is.
He brings out a jar of peppermint candies, and then he went, "It's the movie."
Apparently, she used to send those to him like
while
letters.
While he was in the military, and he's like, "I saved them all. Look, they still have this shape." And he like starts getting really emotional, and then he eventually leaves.
Yeah.
And it zooms in on her face, and she's like crying.
Yeah. The husband follows him out, and he's like, hey, she said that this is yours, take it. And gives him the wrapped item, and then...
it's like a camera.
Yeah.
And which he immediately sells.
Yep. To buy bullets, I think. Or, what is it?
What does he buy? Does he buy a suit? Did he have a suit on already? He might have bought the suit that he has on at the end of the movie.
The husband gave him the suit.
Oh, the husband did give him the suit. That's right.
I don't remember what he buys. It might be bullets, but I'm not sure.
But I mean, he already had bullets. Did he buy more? Maybe. He buys something.
Fuck, I don't remember what he buys. But, then we cut back to 1987, I think is like when it goes back.
5 years, so 94. 94 first, then 87. So 94 is when he's he's a pretty successful businessman. But then this is when he confronts his wife who's having an affair with her driving instructor. But he's like, he can't claim any moral high ground because he's also having an affair. But he still beats the shit out of her and the driving instructor. Yeah. So it's like, oh, this guy's just not good. Like, even the gun thing, we didn't know anything about this guy. But then this is the flashback where it's like, oh, this guy's just not a good guy.
Yeah, it's kind of a piece of shit.
And then he's having like fucking dinner with his wife, and he just starts like yelling at her. He kicks their dog. Yeah. I'm like, what the fuck is going on? Why would you kick a dog?
Yeah, because he's a fucking asshole.
But that scene's pretty much that whole flashback's just to be like, well, he was a successful businessman, then things started going awry when he like was having an affair and he was being cheated on as well. Yeah. And then it goes to the third flashback, which is 87. Yeah. Which is cop. He's a cop. His wife is pregnant because in the 94 they had like a 7-year-old. And then he it's pretty mundane at the beginning. He's just like eating with his wife. He's just hanging out. He seems kind of sweet to her at this point. Like there are some scenes, at least there's a couple.
He like ignores her while he's like reading the newspaper.
Never mind. I was thinking before. Yes. No, he's still a bitch to his wife, but it's not as bad.
And she's like, I'll call you later. He's like, don't call.
Don't call. And then he gets a witness And then he starts torturing him.
Yeah.
And it's really scary. And then he captures a wanted man. But he's trying to find Sunim at this point. He's like in the area that she is. So he's like randomly trying to find her. Because they're like, we don't need all three of us to be on this stakeout. He's like, oh, okay. And then he just randomly has a one-night stand with someone.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh. And then it flashbacks again to probably like 84 or 83. I can't remember. I think 83. And this is when he's just starting out as a policeman. And he's like pressured into like torturing a demonstrator or a suspect. And he's like having trouble. This is when you start to realize that he's like, okay, at least he has like a conscience at the beginning. Cause he's like, please just tell me. Yeah. He's like, please, I don't want to do this. I was like, yikes. But everyone's like, torture him. But he is, visited by Sunim at this point.
Yeah.
And this is when,
she gives him the camera.
The camera, yeah.
But he like gives it back to her, and he's
talking about his future wife, who like he doesn't even really have an interest in at this point. I don't know what he's doing, but I think he's just trying to. I think at this point he realizes that he's just not a good guy and he shouldn't be around Sunim.
Yeah.
Or he's just a bitch. Either way,
some sort of motivation, but yeah. So he gives her back the camera, and he's like, "Well, bye." And then, yeah, she goes away.
Well,
and then we
bye.
have two more flashbacks. We have the big one, which kind of reveals that he was in the military, back to his military service. And when she dropped off the camera, she was talking about a time when she came, she tried to stop by and see him. Mm-hmm. And she's like, you didn't know about that? And he's like, no, nobody ever told me. But he saw her, as we see in this flashback. It begins with her trying to like get into this military base area to like see him,
but they're like, sorry, we're under martial law, you can't. And she's like, please, and they're like, nope, go away.
So she's just kind of walking, and
then suddenly like an alarm starts ringing, and they're like, get up, because this is during the time of the Gwangju riots. So this is that place that they went is the same place where like a taxi driver is. That's that city.
Yeah.
So he like gets ready and like drops his shit, and like all the peppermint candies go everywhere. And like some of them get crushed. And he's like, ah!
And then, basically he gets put in a situation where he's like, they're running and, past some like train cars, and he gets shot in the leg.
Yeah, but he doesn't know.
Yeah, it takes him a little while.
He's like in shock, and he's like, there's water. He's like crying. He's like, I can't run. They're like, why? He's like, I have water in my shoe. And I'm like, why the fuck would that stop you from running?
Me at work every single time.
There's water in my shoe. And then he takes off his shoe. He's like, water. And there's just blood that like starts pouring out his shoe. And they're like, what the fuck?
Yeah, so this
is when it shows like, because throughout this whole movie, he's also had that limp too.
Yeah. And
it's like, where the fuck did he get that limp? So I was assuming it was either here or the first, like the last flashback, but it's here. And I'm like, oh my God.
Yeah.
So they're like, okay, you stay here. I'll go get help. And he's like he's like sitting down, and, he hears somebody coming, and he hears a voice, and there's
it's a student.
Yeah, there's a student coming. She's like, I'm just trying to get to see my grandma or like my mom's house.
Yeah.
And he's like,
it's just across the tracks, and he's not supposed to let her go.
Yeah.
He's
like, go, run. And he like hears other troops coming. He's like, run. So he starts shooting in the air. And then like in his delirious state where he's like, can't do anything, he puts down the gun and he's like trying to aim around to like just keep shooting like he's doing that. And then he shoots her.
Yeah. And then he goes over and holds her while she's like dead or dying.
Yeah. And that's that, this is the scene that really like, one of the big scenes that really like elevates the film, because it's so hard to like justify. It's, nothing is justified in this movie. They're not ever saying like he's a good person at all, but it's like. But
it leaves you to wonder, it's like, where did this egg crack along the way?
Because obviously he wasn't like a terrible guy at this moment. He was trying to help, and then he in his delirious state of like, you know, he'd lost a lot of blood. When the blood comes pouring out of his shoe, I'm like, that's a lot of fucking blood.
Yeah.
And like, and then he feels terrible, but that's pretty much triggers like him just losing faith in like himself and humanity pretty much.
Yeah. But then we go back one more time
and
to the bridge where he died.
The bridge where he dies with that same group. That was that same student group, and they were all together, and they were just, I don't know what they were doing. They were on like some class trip or something.
Yeah.
And he like, this is when he meets Sunim, I believe.
Yeah.
And they talk.
He's pretending to take like pictures. He's like, oh man, I wish I had a nice camera.
Yeah. And I'm just like, fuck.
Yeah.
And then they all sing that song from the beginning.
Yeah. And he's like, I don't know why, but I feel like I've dreamt of this place before.
Yeah, he's like, I feel like I've been here. Implying that, like...
It's like...
There's a big implication that, like, everything's predetermined even, or, like he's destined to die here.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it gives the whole movie, like, a really eerie tone. Like,
yeah.
You know, it gives it a more unsettling... I feel like I'd be more unsettled on a second watch because of those final words.
Yeah, and it's like, you know, because you see him, you know, this young, idealistic boy... at this place where one day he'll commit suicide. And
after becoming like a monster.
Then we just watch this whole journey as they travel backwards on a train.
Yeah, like throughout every transition before... because this movie's is a vignette movie, I would say, like, at least mostly.
The vignettes that center around one specific character.
But every time they switch there... it shows the train moving backwards. And the first one, I didn't realize it was backwards even. But the second one had a car going backwards as well. So I'm like, oh, it was backwards. Mm. Which I think was intentional. I think they wanted you to kind of be like, which way they go?
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, this movie, like I said, I liked the pieces, but I'm like, I just can't stand this character. And like, I still don't think he's a good character. Yeah. I don't think he's a nice character. But I think he's a pretty good character. There's a lot of... I think that also, specifically people in South Korea probably really like this movie a lot more because it's so ingrained in their history. Mm. Like with the Gwangju riots. Like everything... Every piece of him is something that's like happened to people in South Korea. Like the Gwangju riots, mandatory... military service, you know, corrupt police officers destroying students pretty much, like beating the shit out of them and torturing them. And you know, it's a movie it came out in 2000. Like a lot of the movies about Gwangju and stuff like that weren't for until like 2008 or 9 or 10. Like that's when they're like, we need to start talking about this. So having something that early, like that was still fresh. Like that was from like 10 years before. So all those wounds are really fresh. And he's like, this is what happened. We need to talk about this. Chang-dong takes no prisoners. He's like, no, we need to talk about what the government did to us.
Yeah. Ballsy. I like it.
So, you know, I like the movie just for that fact. And like how ballsy it is. Yeah. But also, I just, because of that final scene, like, I was just suddenly like, what the fuck? Like, everything perfectly aligned, and I was just like...
Yeah. It really puts the rest of the movie in perspective, for sure.
And, like I said, I think the main character, even though he's not a good guy, I think he's acted super fucking well. The acting by the main actor's very strong. The girl who plays Sunim also is pretty good, but she doesn't really have any big dramatic moments. So.
Yeah.
But I feel like I really like this movie, but I feel like I might enjoy it even more on a second watch.
Yeah, that's kind of my feelings on it as well.
Truly the persona of Lee Chang-dong. I'm just going to charge my phone real quick.
I would give this one a 7.
Whoa, I'm giving this one an 8.
Whoa.
Little switcheroo.
Yeah, no kidding.
So that means another 7.5 for us. Ah. What?
No. Oh, never mind. I found it.
And now...
Oasis.
Okay.
Today is gonna be the day that they're gonna throw it back to you.
You know, Oasis actually named themselves after this movie.
No, they didn't.
They did not.
Oasis was around before this movie.
You know, this movie was actually named after that band.
Oh, yeah, sure.
So this is probably his most intense movie. Do you agree with that?
If not his most intense
One of
movie
them.
overall, it's definitely probably got one of the most intense scenes.
Maybe one of the most intense scenes I've ever seen.
Yeah. As soon as, like, I saw that character, I was like, I know exactly where this is about to go.
So, the main character of this movie is, has a slight mental disability. And he's just arriving out of jail at the beginning of the movie. And it's revealed that, like... No, actually, it's not. He's just walking around at the beginning of the movie. He's just kind of hanging out. He's looking at shirts. He's just kind of...
Asking people
for
money.
cigarettes. You got a cigarette?
Yeah.
You got a light? Do you know if the bus is coming? He's just kind of asking people that, and he's looking for someone. It's obvious that he shows up at a random apartment, and he's like knocking on the door, and he just like tries to surprise the person inside because he thinks he knows them, and it's not them. And he's like, what?
Yeah.
And he's like, do you know where these people are? Like, no fucking clue. Get away.
Yeah.
So then he's just kind of wandering again, and then it cuts to a scene where he's in a restaurant, or he's like been trying to call people on a payphone. But he has no money, and he's in a restaurant, and he's like, I thought my brother would answer. But he's like, why the fuck would you come here with no money? He's like, I thought my brother would answer. And then he gets arrested.
Yeah.
And the police in the car, like, you've had 3 strikes already. And he, what was the first one for? Was it assault? Did he hit somebody? It may have been a hit, or he either stole something or hit somebody.
Yeah, because...
the second one was attempted rape.
Yeah, and the third one was manslaughter.
Manslaughter. He said that it was dawn and he couldn't see somebody in the road and he hit them, and then he drove off.
Yeah.
Which is very important later on. But, so he's in jail, just kind of hanging out.
You know, for the manslaughter.
Yeah. I mean, he's in jail now. At this point,
oh,
he goes back to jail. He's already, or he's sitting in the police station at least, and then his younger brother shows up.
Yeah.
He's like, "What's up, man?" And he's like, "What the fuck are you doing here?" He's like, "I tried to call you." He's like, "Did you change your hair?" Because he has like a streak in his hair. He's like, "What are you doing?" And he's like, "This is what it never says that he's like mentally disabled, but they refer. There's a lot of ableism in this movie. There's a lot of it." Maybe not necessarily just it's not just to him. The other character that's introduced soon has a lot more.
Yeah.
But this movie's hard to watch.
It's rough.
Yeah.
Well, once you get over the hump, that is the scene, it becomes a lot easier to watch after that, in my opinion.
Yeah.
But it's like, I knew that scene was coming, like, right as soon as I saw that character. I'm like, this is the fucked up director. All of his movies have been fucking just absolutely gut-wrenching so far. And third time's a charm. So, I knew it was coming. So as soon as it passed, I was like, oh, okay. And I was able to handle the film, but up until that point, I was a mess because I was like, I don't want to watch that scene. I'm like, I knew it was coming. And then when it happened, I was like, yep, there it is. But basically, so he starts going around to this house.
Yeah, so he goes back to his house
like
first.
An apartment, I guess.
He goes back to his house first and sees all his family again. They're all like, "Oh, you're here." They're obviously not really happy to see him. I'm like, well, that's rude.
He insinuated earlier that they had, like, changed their phone number and stuff.
Yeah, and moved without telling him and shit. But he's there, and they're like, oh, okay. And they get him a job as a delivery driver as well.
Yeah.
But he starts going to this random apartment. It's revealed very early on, like pretty much that first scene, that this is the apartment of the family that whose dad got killed in that accident.
Yeah.
And that daughter has severe cerebral palsy.
Mm-hmm.
And this movie, when I first started watching, I had to check if that actress had cerebral palsy, because she's really, really good.
I was gonna check like after the movie, but then obviously scenes of the movie give it
so
away.
I checked like right. I'm like, I needed to check like as I was watching.
That scene caught me super off guard the first time it happened, because it's just like, whoa! I'm like, wait, was that what? And then the next scene, they made it much more like clear. I was like, oh, okay.
I see what's going on.
Because I didn't realize it was necessarily supposed to be her in that first scene. I thought it was the other person still.
Oh, okay.
Because they like cut to a shot where she comes up from like a different angle. I'm like, what the fuck?
What the fuck is going on? So he's visiting this daughter, and he's like kind of fascinated with her. I think mostly just because he sees her being mistreated.
Yeah.
And he's mistreated. Like, he sees that connection. And he sees that, like, her brother and his wife are, like, moving out.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, what the fuck? And then he sees them leave without her. And he's like, why? Where are you going? What? What are you doing?
And the dude's basically like, fuck off, none of your business. So he's like, oh, okay.
So then he tries to deliver flowers to her. And he's knocking on the door, and then her neighbor shows up, and it's revealed that her neighbor's pretty much taking care of her for money. She'd been paid to be a caretaker, and he sees her take the key out from under, like, a flower pot. So now he's like, I can get in. I'm like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
But she brings in the flowers, and then he wanders off, and then a couple days later, he brings a fruit basket or something like that. It's like a basket full of food, and he leaves it for her, and then another time he comes into the house. He's like, hey, it's me. Do you remember me? Because he had seen her.
When he dropped off the fruit the first time.
Yeah. The fruit was the first thing.
Yeah, the flower, because he basically comes back like a couple hours after he initially gives her the flowers.
Okay.
Because that's the thing he asks her. He's like, hey, you like the flowers?
Yeah. And when you first seen her, he had walked in while they were like moving, and the door was just open, and he saw her
had, like, a mirror that she was shining in his eye.
Yeah, and she was like just shining it up and stuff, and
she saw like butterflies.
Yeah, that was a cool scene. Like there was a bird the first time.
Oh,
she saw like a bird, and it was like this weird CGI bird.
Yeah, but
at first I was like, "Is that a real bird?" Like the first like 2 seconds, I'm like, "Is that a real bird?" And then it started like moving in weird ways. I'm like, "That's not a real bird."
Yeah.
And then it's revealed that like she's just imagining it. All those scenes that happened, I'm like, "That's really cool."
Yeah.
Why
are you hesitating? I'm trying to figure out how you're going to talk about this scene.
Yeah. So he like is like, hey, I'm here to help. I want to help you. I feel bad. We're similar.
Now let me kiss your feet and rape you.
Yeah. Yeah. So then he's just trying to like. She's freaking out beforehand.
Yeah.
He's like, no, don't freak out. And then he like touches her, and like he's obviously like, it's shown that he does not have like it's hard for him to like handle himself. Like, I don't know if it's his mental. It never says like what disability he has or anything. It's just implied he has one.
Yeah.
And he can't handle himself, and nobody really supports him around him. Like there's this big thing where it's like he's never gotten any help for it. He's been thrown in prison a couple of times, but he's never gotten rehabilitated for anything. He's never been sent to specialists or anything. They just kind of throw him in jail and leave him for a couple of years, and then he comes out.
Yep.
But he attempts to rape her. It doesn't happen because she passes out. And then when that happens, he suddenly like realizes like what he's doing. He's like stops pretty much immediately as that happens. And then he like wakes her up and he's like, I'm sorry. And then he leaves.
Yeah.
And that's the hardest scene in the movie to watch.
He leaves his brother's card.
Yeah, he leaves. He's like, listen, here's a card in case you ever need anything. I'm sorry. And then he leaves.
Yeah.
That's the hardest scene in the movie. And there are some people that don't think it's needed. I know it's hard, but I think that it has a pretty big impact on the ending scenes.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely...
Like, I don't know if any scene in any movie is needed, but...
Yeah, like, it's definitely, like, leaving that scene out would leave out a major part of who the character is.
Well, and it also it would leave out a major, like, theme that Lee Chang-dong's trying to convey with the final thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, so he does that, and then he's like, he's fucking driving around on his delivery bike, but he sees somebody filming a scene, like for a movie where they're sitting in a car and they're being pulled by a trailer, and he drives up next to them. He's like, "Why are you filming?"
Yeah.
And then he crashes.
Yeah.
And they're like, "What the fuck is wrong with you?" And this is the part where like this is actually before the sexual assault happens. This is, I think, the scene before it.
Yeah.
It's trying to just show, before it does the sexual assault, it's trying to show, like, this guy's unhinged. He doesn't know what the fuck he's doing. He's just like, if he sees something, he has to, like, go and do that.
Mm.
And then his sister-in-law, who's, like, bandaging him up, is like, I really don't like you.
No one here.
Yeah, I'm like, what the fuck is wrong with you? Oh.
It's like, we all would have preferred if you stayed in jail.
So, and then there was, before the sexual assault happens, there are two scenes that are also really hard to watch for me.
The spanking? Or is that later? That might be.
I think that's later.
Yeah, that might be after the car and not the motorcycle.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that is. That's quite a bit later.
Okay.
So the first thing that happens is it shows her caretaker. There's like two of them, and they both show up, and they have sex in front of her pretty much. And she has to like close the door so she doesn't experience it. But they're like, I don't care. They know she's there, and they pretty much make her watch.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, what the fuck? And then it shows... Her brother shows up, and she's like, okay, I'm picking her up. And he takes her to this building designed for people with disabilities. So anyone with a disability can get like a really nice apartment for cheaper. And they're pretty much just using her to get that apartment. So they only have her that day to, because the inspectors are coming around. And then as soon as they leave, they drop her back off at home.
Yeah.
And, that scene in particular made me super fucking angry because I've known things to happen like that because I worked with people with disabilities. So,
yeah.
That I was like, ah!
It's upsetting.
Yeah. And then the sexual assault happens. And then he starts trying to become better again. Because at this point, he had been trying to get better. That's why that sexual assault scene is so terrible. Because, like, it's obvious that he's trying to become a better person through it. He's trying to be good. He's trying to give her things. He's trying to, like, make up for, people around her being evil. And then he fails. And he falls back down, like, way further than he was.
Yeah.
And then he tries to do it again.
And, of course, at this point, we're questioning his motivations, especially since... the way it's framed, he killed her father.
Yeah, he's like, we all think it's because he feels bad about killing her father. What happens after this? It's mostly...
She calls him eventually.
Yeah, she calls him eventually after just like being lonely. And
after the whole
she realized that
it's after the sex.
The saddest part is like, he's... In the small conversation that happened, he was like the nicest to her than anyone has been before that happened. But he shows up and he's like, I'm really sorry. Like he actually never says I'm sorry, but like it's there.
Everything but
yeah. So then he starts just helping her out. He takes her places. He takes her out occasionally. They like start just going around in her wheelchair. Yeah, he just starts hanging out.
They go to a restaurant where they experience some discrimination where the dude's like, oh yeah, we're not sorry.
Yeah, this lady's like, sorry, we're closed. And he's like, all these people just ordered. She's like, sorry, can't take any more. He's like, huh. He's like, goes over the TV and starts turning the channels and flipping it on and off. He's like, huh.
Yeah.
And he leaves. But, and she is able to talk. Like, a lot of the beginning of the movie, I didn't know if she was able to talk because nobody lets her. Like, they don't wait for her to speak. It also seems
like, for the most part, she also doesn't want to.
At least with the people there, because they're like, they don't respect me, so I'm just not going to talk to them.
Mm-hmm. So, yeah. So, they kind of, like, get closer to each other.
And they're like... They have a friendship that starts, and then he takes her out on a date. Yep. As in, he takes somebody's car.
Yep.
And they drive around, and
because at this point he had been because he got fired from the pizza delivery.
Yeah, he got fired like right after he got that,
or maybe it's not pizza delivery, whatever.
Some kind of delivery.
And so he asked to like train and work under his brother, who works fixing cars.
Yeah.
Therefore, stole one of those cars one night.
He takes the car, he picks her up,
steals money from a purse as well.
Yeah, the sister-in-law who said she didn't like him. So he's like, I'm taking this money.
Yeah.
And he takes her out to the karaoke place, right? Is this...
maybe eventually, yeah. Initially, he takes her out to that restaurant where...
Yeah.
They get denied, and he's like, oh, well... And then eventually they wind up back at the garage where they order takeout.
Yeah, they go to the garage.
Which... They go to, like, the laundromat in one scene, I think, because I think that... Or... Maybe they're not in the laundromat. Maybe I'm...
There's a lot of scenes that are all kind of mixed together.
Yeah. There's, like, a scene where they're on the train, which is the first scene where we get the sequence where we see her and her desired self.
So what happens is... Let's talk about the train scene first.
Yeah.
So they're on the subway, and she's, like, staring at this couple across the way that are, like, just... flirting with each other, and she's like hitting him lightly with like a little magazine.
Yeah.
She's like bonking him on the head, and she imagines herself like fully able-bodied and like teasing him and stuff and kissing him, and it's very sad.
Yeah.
I'm like, yo.
And then the scenes that we just described a little while ago happen where, you know, the date stuff, then he takes her back to
when he calls to get takeout, specifically, I think it was that scene, she like rams him with the wheelchair.
Because he calls to get takeout, and then the sister-in-law calls about the money.
Oh, yeah.
And then he's talking about that, and then she's like trying to get his attention, you know, by ramming into him. And then this is the scene where...
I don't even think it was necessarily getting his... I think it was the same kind of... Like, she was trying to be like that girl. She was trying to, like, be playful with him. So she rams her wheelchair into him.
He's like, ow! The fuck, dude? And then she has another one of her, like, little daydreams where she gets up out of the wheelchair and starts, like, dancing around with him.
And they go to a karaoke bar at one point. And he's singing to her, and then, like...
She doesn't sing at the karaoke bar.
Yeah, but she's like, it's nice because he, like, he puts the microphone up to her and then, like, doesn't expect anything of her. He's like, sing if you want, you know?
Yeah.
And it's like, wow, what a nice guy. At least at this point.
I think this is also the scene where he describes, like, the dream he had where they danced.
Yeah, I think so. And then that's why she has that little fantasy where she dances with him. And then eventually, she's also, when they're driving around in the car, there's a scene where they get stuck in traffic. So then he dances around with her. He picks her up and he's like dancing in the road. And then he puts her in the car seat, like, look, you're driving. And then he puts her back and they drive back. And eventually he does take her back to her apartment. He puts her back. And then as he's walking out, the neighbor's getting back. So he like hides in the shadows. And then as she walks in, he's like, oh, time to go. And walks out. And then he goes back to the garage and his fucking brother's waiting for him with the customer coming to pick up the car. He's like, I took it for a test drive just to make sure everything was working. They're like, on a Sunday at like 9 p.m.
For several hours.
But they give him the customer his car, and then they go inside, and he's like, so I just didn't think anyone would pick it up on a Sunday.
Yeah.
And then the brother fucking grabs like an iron fucking pipe or some shit and starts fucking beating him in the ass and legs. I'm like, what the fuck, dude?
Yeah.
Actually, and it was also the back. He was just kind of fucking beating on him.
Yeah. Just wailing on him with it.
And he talks, there's this line where he fucking says, like, you need to act like a real human or some shit. I'm like, or a real person.
Basically, he accuses him of, like, being, like, a man-child, where he's like, you know, life is a series of compromises. You know, none of us like living in society. It's just something, you know, you gotta fucking deal with shit that you don't like sometimes, and you need to grow up and be a part of it.
Yeah.
But kind of gives him that type of lecture. And then proceeds to whack his ass with a steel pipe.
And then the next big scene that happens is like a family dinner.
Yeah.
For, I think it's a birthday for his mom. And she says something like, don't call me your mom. I'm like, what the fuck is wrong with you?
Yeah.
But he shows up with, what is her name? I don't remember either of the characters' names.
I don't either.
I'm usually pretty good with names.
I am not. But that's no surprise at this point.
We all know.
So he shows up with his girlfriend, and the entire family's like, hey, what the fuck? This is a closed family event. He's like, oh no, she's like family to me, don't worry.
Chang-dong. And Chang-dong. Yeah. Chang-dong is him, and then I think it's Gongju for her. Gongju? Yeah. So he brings Gongju, and this is when it's revealed that, like, he's like, hey, this is the daughter of the person that got killed in the crash, or in the accident.
And then the brother is like, hey, can we talk outside?
Yeah, and they talk about how the older brother was the one that was in the accident.
Yeah.
And
Chang-dong
was the one that was like, I will go to prison. I already have a record. And he pretty much implies, I'm, like, not worth it. Like,
yeah, because it's like, your brother is a society man. He's got family. You know, he's actually worth something. So, since you're so useless, and you can just take the fall for him.
Yep.
And then the entire family can hate you.
Yep.
So, yeah, basically, he goes back inside, and then it all wraps up with, like, a family picture, and then he tries to get Guanju in there, but they're like, no, absolutely not. She's not being in the family photo. And he's like, well, fuck it. Oh, my bad.
Guangzhou is the city with all the riots.
My bad.
Oh, you good?
But yeah, so he's like, well, if she's not going to be in the picture, then I'm not going to be in it.
Yeah, and then they leave.
Yeah.
And then they go back and...
It sleeps with her.
Is this the scene?
I'm pretty sure this is the scene.
And he's like, okay, I'm going to leave.
And she's upset with him at first because they're like out in the parking lot. And
oh, yeah. Because he was using her at this point. Like, he was using her to get back at him to go, hey, you're the one that sent me to prison. Like,
yeah. But so he's like, all right, fine, I'll leave you. And he leaves her for like 30 seconds. And
he's like, okay, let's go back. And then they go back. And,
yeah,
she asks him to fuck her pretty much. And like, this is what I mean. Like, this scene is a direct juxtaposition to, like, how they were in the sexual assault scene. And, like, this one is, like, raw and powerful and, like, beautiful. Like, the way they're moving, like, even, like, with her cerebral palsy, she's, like, holding on to him. And it's kind of emotionally devastating as well, because it's, like, a lot of people with disabilities just don't get to experience a lot of things in life. And that's what this whole movie is they're experiencing these things. Yeah. Nobody else will help them, so they're helping themselves kind of thing. And then the fucking caretaker walks in on them having sex.
Yeah.
And
calls the cops.
Calls the cops, and Chang-dong gets arrested.
Yeah, and a bunch of like the neighbor guys like come in and basically like make it so it's like he can't run away or anything.
Yeah. And he's just like, okay, I'm arrested.
She's too like...
And she's like in shock.
Yeah,
like she cannot speak. And
when they file the police report, like the neighbor says everything for her. And she doesn't get a chance to speak for herself, so they basically file charges on him.
Yeah.
And he gets arrested.
And
no one hears her side of the story because they just think she's some disabled mute.
Yeah. They're like, this is pretty open and shut. I'm like, I'm gonna scream. That scene makes me so mad. This scene makes me... I'm gonna fucking... But there's like an altercation in the police station. People are like all sorts of... Everyone's like beating up each other. Like arguing, and fucking Chang-dong like runs out. And he's like, I'm escaping. And he does escape for a bit. And, oh yeah, we didn't talk about this, but this big thing earlier in the film, she was talking about how she's really scared at night because she stares at this picture, which says Oasis and is a portrait of an oasis in like the desert. It has this like really menacing shadow that appears at nighttime that comes from this tree.
Mm-hmm. And he's like, what? It's just a tree.
At one point, there's another scene where she's imagining things. He's like, watch, I'm going to use my magic powers to make it disappear. And he's like, it's going. And he says it's gone. It like disappears for her. And there's a lot of scenes like that. There's another scene where they actually like, they're dancing together and it's like the oasis are around them.
Mm-hmm. And that's like how he describes his dream too.
Yeah.
Which leads into that sequence. Yeah.
But he knows that he's going to prison for probably a long time because he's had 3 strikes. So he fucking grabs a saw and they find him and he's in the tree that's making the shadow and he's sawing off all the parts. And he's like screaming. He's like, I'm doing it.
Yeah.
And she starts playing this song that I think it was the song that she was gonna sing for karaoke. And then she did sing a little later, like he could hear her, like whispering it and stuff. Yeah. And she starts playing the music really loud. And he's like dancing to it as he saws away. And he saws all the things and it just slowly shows the shadow going away. And then he gets arrested.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And he goes to prison and the movie ends with her...
He writes a letter to her.
She writes a letter.
The copy I watched so graciously left out huge chunks of his final letter from...
Oh.
It was just like, he's talking, and then it just... Suddenly he's talking, and there's no subtitles, and then it shows up like right as like he wraps up the letter, and it's like, oh, great. Love that. Good. So, I assume it's...
It was a very good letter.
Oh, great.
It was just like...
So I don't know what the resolution or anything on that
He was just saying, like, I'm learning, I'm keeping myself busy in prison. He pretty much implies that they treat him better in prison than they ever did in real life.
Mm.
And he pretty much is like, I love you. Pretty much. And she's like, she talks earlier about how she hates summer because of her how she can't move a lot and like how flies and mosquitoes and sweat bother her so much and she like can't stop it. So this final scene while the letter's reading is like she's trying to get away these flies, which her brother or her caretaker should be doing.
Yeah.
But she's like trying to get them all and then it just kind of fades out.
He's like, I hate beans, bitch. Bye.
Yeah, they talk about beans too. There's a lot of like just dialogue between the two of them that like comes full circle in the movie.
Yeah.
But yeah. This movie devastated me. And this movie's like stayed with me since I watched it.
Mm.
like every moment of every day I'm thinking about it. And maybe because I've worked with like a person with very debilitating autism.
Yeah.
You know, like, but it's just, yeah. What'd you think?
Oh, yeah. Overall, I liked it. I mean,
very epic.
I don't know if I.
There's a lot of really like great scenes. Like I really do love the scenes in which she's imagining like butterflies and stuff with her broken glass and stuff. Like there's a lot of really unique scenes that are like, hey, these people are people.
Mm-hmm.
And Lee Chang-dong is just like, fuck ableism. If you're ableist, I'm gonna kill you.
Yeah.
And I support that notion. Let's kill him.
I mean, I'm not as extreme. I mean, I don't like killing, but I mean...
I will kill you.
Alright. I would give that one a 8.
I'm going to give this one a 10.
Oh, shit.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, like I said, it actually, like the number went up, too. Like, right when I finished it, I was at an 8. But, like, literally, like, 10 minutes later, I'm like, that was better than an 8 for me. Like, I couldn't leave my mind. And then, like, 2 days later, I'm like, this has not left my mind. Oh. It also makes my heart beat really fast. I don't know why. Like, my heartbeat is beating really fast. I feel like I'm about to have a heart attack. Oof. Okay. What's next?
Secret Son.
Oh, God. Okay. It's these three. I think these three are the most gut-wrenching. Oasis, Secret Sunshine, Poetry.
Yeah.
Yeah? Did you agree with that?
Yeah, probably.
Oh, okay. You want to talk about Secret Sunshine?
Sure.
I'm going to go pee real quick. I'll be right back.
Alright, so Secret Sunshine, we open up with this mother and son moving to this conservative town in South Korea. And we basically find out that the husband / father to this mother and child died recently before, and that this was his hometown. Before he died, he had wanted to move back, but clearly that didn't happen, so they're kind of like living that dream to honor him. But right away, her car is broken down. So she has to call a mechanic, and that is Song Kang-ho's character, who, this is the first time we see him. He looks like Markiplier in this movie. And yeah, he's fixing up her car, and immediately we see that he's got kind of like a thing for her. You know, he's like, oh, you guys are just moving here? Oh, huh. And then we cut to a scene where he's like BSing around with some of his coworkers, and he makes kind of a sexual comment about wanting to look and take a peek under the skirt of one of his coworkers, but he says it like right in front of
Song Kang-ho?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He says it right.
Like, they're all jokingly, like, the tone. This lady, like, when he first said that, I was, like, a little uncomfortable, but this lady never seems, like, uncomfortable with it. Like, she's just kind of joking around with him.
Yeah. I mean, if it's her brand of humor,
yeah,
the more power to her, I guess.
That's why I'm always like, Thomas, let me see your anal cavity.
No. Anyway. So, yeah, he, like, looks over and he sees that her and her son are there.
He's like, oh, hey!
He offers the kid gum. Because, in the previous scene, the kid was like, I want gum.
I want gum. You got gum, mister? He's like, why do you want gum?
No, I don't have gum. So, yeah, so it's kind of like just these opening scenes are her kind of getting used to this town. There's like a pharmacist that is like right next door to her who's trying to get her to convert to Christianity.
The true villain of the movie.
Yeah, because she's like, hey, you know, I heard that your husband died recently. You know what you could use? God. There's like a point where she's straight up, it's later in the film when she says this, but there's a point where she's like, all this stuff, all these medicines won't really help you.
They're like, they can heal your body, but the thing that you need healing from is your heart. And only God can provide that.
And it's like,
like, shut the fuck up!
My eyes were rolling so far into the back of my head during these scenes. But, yeah, so she's like, oh, well, I can't see my son currently, so I'm going to go see in that. And we see that, like, her and her son have this little game that they play where he pretends to be, like, kidnapped.
Or he's just hiding, pretty much.
Yeah,
like,
he hides.
And she's like outside pretending to cry. She's like, where are you? And he starts coming out and she's like, gotcha!
Yeah.
And he's going to school.
Yeah. And yeah, we there's like this, I felt like there was more, spoiler, time with the son in this movie than there actually was.
There's only 30 minutes.
Yeah, because he's, like, I remember, like, the point in which, like, we find out he disappeared. I'm like, wow, I feel like I'm, like, halfway through this movie. And I, like, clicked it. I'm like, oh, man, I've got a lot of this movie left.
That's what's so, I guess, brutal about this movie is it's one of the movies that highlights how well people stay with us. Like, people... we never stop being affected by people, even if they die. Spoiler, he's about to die.
Yeah.
So we meet this teacher guy who, like, drives the kids home and stuff. And,
he's got, like, a daughter.
He has a daughter, and he pulls her into the van as soon as he sees her.
Yeah, she's kind of like a delinquent, He's like, oh, she never stays in school. She's a bad egg, that kind of relationship.
But, then she's talking about how she's has a bunch of money and she's going to buy some property.
Yep.
And because of this, one day she goes out with a bunch of the girls in town. She's trying to, like, impress them, and she's having fun. They do karaoke together.
Yep.
And then she gets home and she cannot find her son. And she gets a call that somebody has him.
Yep.
And they're like, if you tell anyone, I'll kill him. But she still starts running out into the road, and she's, like, crying. And she runs up to Song Kang-ho's house. And we see him doing karaoke. And so she doesn't go in.
Yeah, she's like, oh, I can't disturb that. My son's missing, but no, I can't.
I think she just doesn't want to tell anything.
Yeah.
I think that scene just brings her back to reality of the situation. Like, she was in shock before, and then she gets all the money she has, and she brings it to the spot they tell her to bring her. And she does, gets a call, and she's like, listen, that's all the money I have. And she confesses that she was lying about buying property. Like, she's poor. Like, she doesn't have money. She spent all the life insurance moving her son here. Yeah. And, like, starting the piano school that she has.
So they're like, all right, we'll get in contact with you. And she's like, when? And they just hang up.
Yeah. And
then a couple guys come and knock on her door.
Like that same day.
Yeah.
And they take her, they drive her, and
the kid's dead. Yeah, so she's obviously pretty fucking broken up about that.
Yeah.
We get the scene where she, like, goes down and his body's found next to, like, a kind of like a swampy kind of area.
It was pretty much like a water reservoir that, like, it was dumped there because they didn't think it would be found because that water's kept at the same, like, level. And they even said that. They said that they found it because they were, like, cleaning a certain part.
Mm.
And so she's just kind of
and
broken up about that.
Yeah, they catch the guy who did it right away.
Like, pretty much right away because, like, it might have been the next day maybe.
Yeah.
But she sees the daughter, like, looking in on the piano shop and, like, crying. And so she's like, oh, he did it.
Yeah.
So she calls the police and she's like, I think this guy did it. And then it cuts to them at the police station. And Song Kang-ho's with her, hanging out. And the guy is arrested and comes in. And he, like, looks at her. And Song Kang-ho's suddenly like, are you looking at her?
Yeah.
And he, like, hits him in the head.
Yeah, it goes up, does a little slap. And then a couple other things I want to bring up until this point, because they're about to become relevant.
Song Kang-ho's a fucking simp in this movie.
Is that what?
A simp.
I've heard that term.
He's just like
throughout, like these.
Please, ma'am, give me the pussy.
Oh, okay. Is that? What,
I mean, he kind of is.
I heard the term simp like through these movies, but I had no idea what it meant. I was just like, oh, okay.
No, he's just very. He's kind of a fuckboy in this movie.
Yeah. I actually wasn't that big of a fan of his character in this movie. I mean, obviously, I love Song Kang-ho, but his character was kind of like meh.
I have a lot to say about his character, but I want to wait until that.
But yeah, so she gets before the kid goes missing. A couple things I want to bring up because they're gonna become contextually important eventually. Her brother had come to visit in one scene, and basically you find out that she's trying to, like, cut ties with her family and Sale.
Good soul.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
I'm bad at names.
You're good.
I like to pronounce them how they look.
Seoul.
But, and then we also find out that her and her son have this great talent at pretending to be asleep when they miss the husband/father. The kid, like, snores because the dad used to snore, and she says, like, oh, he snores when he misses her dad.
Yeah, he's not even sleeping at that point. He's just sitting there snoring because he misses him.
Yeah, and we get a couple scenes where we see her doing, like, the fake sleep.
Yeah, that's that first scene after. I don't even remember if he's dead yet, like, or if she knows he's dead yet, but she's just laying on the...
I think it's the scene. That's like the scene where the cops come.
Oh, yeah. She's laying on the couch crying and snoring.
Yeah.
That scene's fucking brutal. Especially on a rewatch. Like,
Yeah.
I was like, oh no. Oh no.
But yeah, so basically right after she has to go and, like, file, like, the death certificate before the funeral, right? Or is it vice versa? I think it's the funeral before the death certificate.
I think so.
Yeah. So basically, like, immediately it's the funeral.
And her mother, or maybe it was the dad's mother. I can't. Yeah, I think it was her mother-in-law, pretty much.
Yeah.
Starts screaming at her because she's not crying. She's just kind of raw in emotion. Like, she's not crying. And the grandmother, like, screams at her. And Song Kang-ho tries to, like, help. He's like, you surely realize that the mother is the one that hurts the most in this situation. You can't just do that to her. And the whole family, like, they all jump on him. He's just kind of like, okay, never mind.
And he goes over and she's basically like, you slapped the murderer, and I wanted to do that, but I didn't. I just couldn't.
Mm-hmm.
So she, later she has to go, like, file the death certificate, and Song Kang-ho tries to join her, and she's basically like, just fucking leave me alone. Stop. You're like a fucking puppy. Just leave. God.
Yeah.
And he's like, well, we were both going to town, like, the city hall. Why can't we
let's just go together, man. Let's go.
And she has to, like, push him out of the cab. And it's like, oof. So she goes, and then she, like, breaks down because she doesn't know her ID number off the top of her head, and she starts getting kind of like, what? You don't know your ID number? What the fuck? And she drops her purse, and
somebody guys tries to help her. She's like, I got. And he's like, still helping her. She, like, starts screaming.
Yeah, and the entire place looks at her. Song Kang-ho walks in at that point. And then, she leaves. Presumably after finishing that, I assume. But Song Kang-ho kind of follows her out. And what happens here? Oh, fuck. This is like...
So this is the scene where they go to church, I think.
Well, I know she goes to the pharmacy.
Yeah, she goes to the pharmacy and she's like, hey, we're having a little thing for your son. You should come.
So she does, and then she just starts just wailing, and then
she's like screaming and crying.
Then the father
like pretty much all of the emotion that's been built up because she's just been raw and like just like little bits of crying just comes out at this moment. And she like feels good because she's like let go. So then she like starts going to church, and she like joins this religious group. And there's like 20 minutes where it seems like she's like becoming happier. And I was like, hey, look at her.
No, I knew exactly what they were building up to because I know
look at her.
Religion does this. It's like, because she uses it as a crutch, but instead of
as her soul crutch.
Yeah, but because obviously when you go through such traumatic experience as losing a kid, the idea that they're in heaven,
is a very enticing offer. Like,
exactly,
hey, they're okay,
and it's like you never truly accept they're dead.
There's a scene
you have that pocket in your mind where you're like, I'm going to see them in heaven and it'll be cool.
Yeah.
So,
but there's also that scene in the pharmacy where she's like, if God is real and his love is all encompassing, why is my son dead?
Yeah, and she's like, well,
God's everywhere.
God's everywhere. You might just see sunlight over there, but there's plenty of things that you don't see. And I think I really like the title Secret Sunshine because I feel like it's one of those like multi-purpose titles.
Mm-hmm.
It can really fit into a lot of different crevices.
Yeah, Secret Sunshine might be my favorite title of all of his.
Yeah,
like I like most of his titles.
Burning was a pretty good title too, but that one's pretty a lot.
But I mean, Burning's based on a short story that was called Barn Burning. So
okay. I didn't know that, but
I mean, I think Oasis is a pretty good title as well.
Yeah.
I actually think that most of them are pretty great titles.
Yeah, I think the first two are probably the two that have like the weaker titles that it's like, was this really the point of the whole film?
Tie into like one part of the movie.
Yeah.
While everyone else like ties into every part of the film.
I would have called Peppermint Candy train moving backwards.
I would have called it Man in Suit Be Sad Though.
I feel like the title would have been not the title, the camera would have been like a more suitable, like, thing.
Peppermint Camera.
Peppermint Camera, yeah, there we go. Perfect.
Okay, so yeah, she's using religion as a crutch. Like, she seems kind of happy, she's smiling and stuff, but it's kind of obvious as well that, like,
yeah, it's kind of
a facade as well.
She starts going to like church groups and she's happy at first, but she slowly kind of starts unraveling
and then she has this idea that she's like, okay, I need to go forgive this man, this murderer.
Yeah.
Oof.
And
this fucking scene.
Everyone's like, are you fuck? Like, that's God's word, but none of us take it that seriously.
Yeah, you sure about that one?
I mean, it's the Bible, it's just kind of more of a metaphor, not literal, or something like that. I don't know. However they justify avoiding things that it specifically says, cherry picking what they like. But yeah, so she goes, her, Song Kang-ho, and then another couple from the church go. And she's like, it's just her and Song Kang-ho that go in and like talk to him now. And she basically explains, she's like, look, I've come here to forgive you. I've accepted God into my life and it's great. And he's like, oh, that's great because I've accepted God into my life and he's forgiven me.
And so she's like,
he's fucking what?
Yeah, he's like, yeah, I'm
at peace. I'm
God
completely absolved of all my former sins. She's like, you are? And she leaves, and then she basically like everyone else is like, oh, dude, what the God works wonder of wonder, miracle of miracles.
Like, wow, look at him, he did it.
Yeah.
Wonder of wonders, miracle of miracle.
God took a murderer by the hand.
And wonder of wonder, miracle of miracles.
That kid's dead in the ground. But so she basically she kind of starts walking away from the car. I really like this scene. It's a nice visual symbol because when she goes to see the guy in prison, she like has some flowers that she picked from the side of the road, and she's like, "God made these flowers. God is beautiful."
And then she throws them on the ground,
yeah,
and then passes out. And then they go to are they in the hospital?
Yeah, they're in a hospital. Song Kang-ho smells her hair while he thinks she's asleep. She's not. One of those fake sleeps that she does.
Yeah.
She basically is like, fuck off, I want to be alone, but all the church people keep coming, so she pretends to be asleep, and that's when all that happens. Yeah, and then... there's some more, like... There's, like, a Bible study at her house, and she just kind of basically fully just unloads. She's like...
How can... Yeah, she pretty much just says... how can I forgive him, He's already been forgiven. I never got to do that.
Yeah.
She this actress is very good.
Yeah.
I tweeted something. There's a new... Song Kang-ho just got cast in a new movie. It's by this director that I need to watch because he's directed some other Song Kang-ho movies, but he's in it with this lady again and this guy named Lee Byung-ho, I think. It's do you remember The Bad from The Good, the Bad, the Weird?
Yeah.
It's that guy.
Okay.
Who's also a very strong actor. He's the main character in I Saw the Devil.
Okay.
So I'm very excited for that movie.
Huh.
But yeah, she's I think this is the only movie that I've seen her in. But she's really good in this movie.
Yeah, no, she did great in this movie.
But yeah, she's like screaming. She's like, how can I forgive him if God's already fucking done it?
Yeah. So she basically screams, and then she tells everyone to get out, and then she finds an earthworm on like a plate or something and screams, and then Song Kang-ho laughs at her, and then she cries some more.
And he's like, oh, I'm sorry. Because he's like, oh, don't worry, it's just an earthworm. And he's like, ha ha. And then she's like, she's like sobbing, like, whoops.
Yeah. So, pretty much after this is when she, right?
No, she goes to that festival.
Oh yeah, So
she starts doing stuff. Oh, well, doesn't she have sex with that guy first?
I think that's after the festival.
Okay, so she goes to this festival. It's like this big church festival.
Before
it's like a seminar.
She goes to a CD store where she steals a CD and kind of gets caught.
Yeah, she goes to a CD store. She gets caught. She's like in the corner. But I think she had multiple CDs because she still has one. So
yeah.
But she goes to this like giant church seminar pretty much where this like preacher's out in the middle of like a clearing on stage talking about God or whatever. And she goes into like the booth with all the sound equipment and starts playing the CD like super loud where it's just like lies.
Yeah.
Love is a lie.
She basically just
and then she just walks out.
And it's funny because you see like all these people and like this dude's like just trying to
talk over, and there's one guy that's just like jamming. He's like, yeah.
And it's funny because like you can tell like it's going through all of their minds in this scene where they're all thinking like, oh, is it a lie? Or are we just
are you lie? What?
Like, are we just living by a lie? I mean, you see like the doubt on some of the faces.
And then as she's walking away, you just see like 5 guys run to the sound booth.
And then quickly like turns off before she fully walks away.
But. And then this, the lady that works at the pharmacy, this fucking evil woman.
Yeah, her husband's been like kind of nice to
like he's just kind of he's like passive, which could be considered just as bad as like he's enabling his wife to do these things. But she she pretty much seduces them and has sex with them. I'm pretty sure to, like, try to destroy their marriage.
Yeah.
But she's like, I'm going to get back at them. So she fucks him.
Yeah. Well, she
tries to, but then he can't get his little wee up.
He's like, God's watching us. I can't. So she's like,
fuck you.
So she tries to go fuck Song Kang-ho, but then
he's like,
really? Now of all time?
Yeah, because he had asked her to go out with him. And that was that day, and she blew him off to go fuck that guy.
Yeah.
So he'd been waiting, and he's like, oh, and he's like, I do everything for you, and he's like throwing things.
Yeah, he has a big tantrum, and then she freaks out.
He like throws two things, and she's like crying in the corner. He's like, I'm sorry.
Yeah, and then she goes home, and she's cutting some apples.
And then she cuts her wrists.
Yep. And then she goes out.
And then she realizes what she's done, and she's like, I don't want to die yet. So she runs out and she's screaming on the road. She's like, someone help me! Then it cuts to her in the hospital.
Yeah.
Probably a couple months later.
Yeah.
Because suicide watch. She'd probably be there for a while.
Yeah.
And Song Kang-ho's picking her up. Or first he picks up her brother. And they're like driving. And he's like, hey, how are you?
Oh yeah, I still believe in God, you know.
He's like, I still go to church. He's like, it's just kind of a habit. Yeah. You know, it makes me feel kind of sad not going. And he's like at peace when I do go.
Yeah. So they go and they pick her up, and then he's like, how about we go? I made like dinner reservations. We can go do that. And she's like, well, I want to get my hair done first. So he's like, okay. So
he takes her to a random salon. Like he doesn't. Like he just takes her to one.
And then she, coincidentally enough, the daughter of the killer.
Is the hairdresser. And she like starts cutting it. She's like...
There's also a scene, we forgot to bring this up.
There's a scene pretty early on after the death where she's driving and she sees the daughter being like beaten up by a guy.
It's after like the reveal of like who the killer was. But the daughter's being beaten up and they like see each other and she kind of drives off and she almost hits somebody else.
Yeah, and then they yell at her. And there's like a moment where you think she's going to help this girl.
Yeah.
But she doesn't because she's pissed and sad.
And then the haircut's going on and you think like, you know, she's going to have like some sort of like...
They're going to talk and everything will be fine. But
because it's like...
Lee Chang-dong's just like, that's not how life works.
Yeah.
They're not fine.
And I feel bad for like the daughter because it's not like she specifically did it. I mean, she probably could have been a bit more honest, but being in that environment with that guy,
she was probably being abused the way he like showed like
probably
grabbed her and shit, like,
you know, threatened into not confessing, you know, kind of deal, you know, afraid of what would happen to her. You know, it's the best rationalization I can come up with it, but so she kind of just like storms out halfway through the haircut and she's like, why the fuck did you bring me to this salon of all places? I don't know. I just took you to a salon. And she's like, she looks up at the sky. She's like, oh, you fucking son of a bitch.
He's like, are you watching?
What a fucking weird coincidence. And so she like goes and she bumps into like one of her old...
Well, at the very beginning of the movie, she told this lady who was wearing, had a clothing store.
Oh, yes, that's what it was.
Like, hey, you should paint this brighter colors and move this around because the sunshine isn't shining through. And the woman kind of makes fun of her for it later on, but at the end of this movie, like, this is practically the end. She does. And, like, it's like, hey, there's this place is radiant now. Like, it's
doing better business, like you said.
The sun is shining through and shit. It's like, it's like secret sunshine. And then she goes home and she cuts her own hair.
Yep.
She starts cutting her own hair.
Song Kang-ho holds the mirror for her.
Song Kang-ho shows up. He's like, hey, let me hold the mirror.
And that's it.
That's it. That's the movie.
Yeah, it like pans over. We see her hair blowing in the wind.
And it zooms in, like, the last shot is just like the sun blaring in a certain spot.
Yeah. That's, Secret Sunshine.
So you said you didn't like Song Kang-ho, or you thought it was kind of this movie? Like the character itself.
Yeah.
I agree that the
Like, I get
character
that he has a
itself is
point.
met, but I really, really like the point of the character. Because really, I feel like he's kind of an antagonist to her in a sense.
Oh, yeah.
Because he's too nice. He's an enabler. Like, he's there to support her, but only to a certain extent. When her family starts pressuring him, he like immediately stops, you know, like he's there and he's trying to support, but he cannot do it himself. And like, there's so much in this movie where
he like half-ass supports everything.
He half-ass supports everything.
It's like when she becomes a Christian, he becomes a Christian too, but when she leaves Christianity, he sticks around. He's the one who initially takes like the hits on the serial killer, but when he accepts God into his heart, he's like, hey, you know,
Good for him. He did.
Yeah, God, what a wonder maker, you know? And yeah.
even like Christianity, it doesn't even feel like he really like believes in God. He's just like, it's just kind of a nice habit.
And it's like...
Which is fine to have, but, you know, you're not really supporting her if you're doing that.
And the whole movie, you know, he's trying to appeal to her, and she knocks him over and knocks him over and knocks him over, just keeps putting him down. And it gets to the point, to that date where it's like, she's finally like, you want to fuck me, right? And he just doesn't take it. He's like, no. And she's like, well, what the fuck? Like, and then he freaks out.
Yeah.
And it's the whole ordeal. So it's like, he's like got his half his arm in there, but he's not willing to go like beyond his elbows.
Yeah. Which, you know, like, it's hard to watch him because you get angry, but I think he's like a really good part of the movie.
Yeah.
At least personally. And I like how, like, the antagonist of the movie isn't even really the killer. It's, a lot of the time, it's just herself. Like, the whole movie is about her refusing to, like, transform pretty much, or change. And she keeps using other things as crutches. Like, she uses Song Kang-ho just as much as he uses her. It's like this toxic affair going on.
Yeah.
And she uses Christianity. And that's why, like, I personally really like the last scene. Like, of her just cutting her own hair, because it feels like for the very first time she's, like, doing something for herself. Like, she's moving on by herself. Like, even with Song Kang-ho, at that point, she's not using him as a crutch. He's there to support, he's there, like, helping, but she doesn't need him anymore.
Yeah.
So I really like the last scene.
Yeah.
And I think this movie's, like, really, really better on a second watch. Like, every scene, I'm like, yes. And I think the acting's really fucking good. Like, Song Kang-ho's really good, especially in that little freak out scene he did. I'm like, yeah, I want to see him freak out more.
Yeah.
It's kind of hot. And I do think I like this movie because it feels so genuine to Lee Chang-dong's experience. Like, because this city of, like, because it's a right-wing city, and she can't escape any of it either. She can't escape that Christianity. It's ingrained in, like, everything they're doing. Mm-hmm. And she can't escape Song Kang-ho because he's like, there's nobody in the town. Like, he's there always.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I really like that idea that, like, she can't escape what she brought her son there, and he died because of that.
Yeah.
And, yeah. Brutal movie.
It is.
But I'm a huge fucking fan of this one.
Yeah, I liked it.
So what'd you give it?
9.
What did I give it?
9? 8? 10?
Yeah.
Okay.
I gave it a 9 on my first watch, but I do think it's better on a second watch, which I was surprised by. I think all of these movies would get better on a second watch, or at least, at the very least, the same.
I'd agree. Okay.
2 more movies.
All right. Let's kick it into overdrive because it's getting kind of late.
Yeah, it is. All right. So let's talk about Poetry, which is the first movie I watched in this situation going on. And that fucking, it was brutal. This movie. Okay, so this is about an old lady who is a nice old lady, and she works as a part-time maid for this old guy who he might have suffered a stroke. I'm not sure what's
Yeah,
he can't move very well.
Yeah.
And he can't talk very well either because of the jaw movements. But she works for him part-time, but mostly she gets along with like Social Security. But she's very poor. And she lives with her grandson because her daughter had divorced her husband and like moved out. And she lives like a few towns over in a city or something. I'm not familiar with all the South Korean cities, so I can't know for sure. But her grandson's a fucking asshole to her all the time. Like, she tries so hard for him, and he's just the fucking worst.
Yeah. Little shit.
And he gets very, very worse.
Yes.
Much worse, I would say.
Never gets better.
Never gets better. Maybe the very last scene he's a little bit better, but that's about it.
Maybe.
So she goes, one of the first scenes is she goes to the doctor, and she's like, hey, I'm forgetting things. She's there for an unrelated note. I think she has like a cough. And they're like, well, the cough's fine, but I'm worried about the forgetting things. So you should probably go to like Seoul or like a big city and get one of the tests done. Mm-hmm. So she's like, oh, okay, I'll do that. And she's a little worried, but she has a really nice jovial nature about her. Like, she's old, she's elderly, she has a decent amount of wisdom, but at the same time, she's kind of hip. She's kind of hopping.
Yeah.
So then she's just kind of working and doing things and trying to do her best.
She eventually enrolls in a poetry class.
Enrolls in a poetry class because she's like, I want to learn things in my old age, and especially because might lose my memory kind of thing.
Yeah,
because she's forgetting things. So she enrolls in the class, and she's like, I don't know how to write poetry. Till the teacher, he's like, well, everyone can write poetry. It's just about finding the will to, kind of thing. You go. I'm about to sneeze.
Okay, so yeah. We find out around this time that one of her grandson's classmates recently committed suicide.
Yeah, well, actually, the very opening shot is this girl in the water.
Yeah.
It shows the dead body, but we have no idea where this is. We don't know, like, is this the end of the movie? Like, what's going on?
Yeah. So we see, like, we pass by, and it's like the mother grieving.
Yeah.
And yeah, I don't remember everything like chronologically.
So at this point, it's pretty close to this point. She starts going to these poetry classes. She's trying to learn what makes life beautiful and shit. She sees that her grandson's been hanging around this like group a lot, and they keep like having these private conversations. And one day, one of the dads shows up and is like, "Hey, we need to talk." She's like, oh, okay. She gets in the car, and they drive to the spot where all 5 of the dads and her meet up, and suddenly, like, this is, like, pretty early on in the movie, and it's just like, what the fuck?
Yeah. So basically...
Which I had called it. Like, right before. I'm like, is this going to be one of those fucking... I had said that to... I watched this with my friend Jennifer. Hi, Jennifer. And I'm like, Jennifer, do you think... this happens? You're like, I fucking hope not. And then it happens. Like, So it turns out that this girl that had committed suicide had kept a diary. Yeah. And she had said that, like, for months and months and months, these 6 boys had been, like, sexually assaulting her and raping her. And
it started off with just one, but then gradually they all joined in.
Yeah, they all joined in. Or I think it started with 2, actually.
It sounded like maybe. It started with 1, and then it like switched on to like 2 pretty quickly.
Oh, okay.
It might have stayed those 2 for a little while, but then gradually the rest came in. Because they said one of the boys' names and that it specifically started with him.
So immediately the dads are like, and we got to protect our sons. Like, immediately. And she's like, what the fuck?
The whole time I was like, come on, Grandma, just let your grandson burn.
So they're like, if we give 30 million won to the mother, then she won't go to the police. Or like that's like a standard amount. Do you know how much that is?
A lot, by the sound of it.
Maybe. No, not at all.
Oh,
it's like 25 grand. For your daughter's death. Fuck. So that, or maybe it was, I think it was 30 grand in US dollars. No, it was only 20 grand. It was 20 grand.
Oh, damn.
So what makes me so angry is like, per person, that would be like 4 grand, and all the dads have it. But they're all waiting for the entire movie. They're waiting for the grandma to get it. I'm like, why the fuck would you all just not pitch in if you really need this done and you're all successful?
Yeah, and it's like it's not like she wouldn't pay, and then the mother would be like, all right, it was just her grandson that did it. It would be, sink or swim for all of them,
But she starts trying to get money, but she can't really do anything. Yeah. She's like forgetting things. At her maid job, the guy he takes Viagra and tries to have sex with her. So she quits.
Yeah.
She's like, fuck you, I'm leaving. And then she's trying to get money. She at one point, she goes to do karaoke. Because one of the dads owns a karaoke place, and she's like, "Can I borrow the money? I'll work here if I have to." He's like, "I'm not gonna give you a job here, and no, you can't borrow money from me." I'm like, "Fuck you, asshole!"
It's like you guys
this lady,
it's like every time they see her, they're like, "Do you have the money?" She's like, "No, I have no way to get the money. Can you guys help me?" And they're like, "No, but you better get that money." And then the next time it's like, "You still don't have the fucking money?" It's like, yeah, she's an old lady.
Yeah, she's an old lady who. And it's revealed probably close to this time she has dementia. Or she has very early dementia. And there's no stopping it. And all this time she's still going to those poetry classes and she's trying to learn. She goes to some poetry like nights as well. Yeah. Where this one guy keeps doing poetry. He does like 2-word poems and then he tells jokes for like 2 minutes. And it turns out he's like a police officer. And she at one point ridicules him. She's like, he's not respecting poetry.
Yeah, he's too dirty.
And he's like, I'm so sorry, Grandma.
Yeah. So basically all the other dads set her up to make it so she goes and talks to the mom.
Well, first she's talking to a reporter and she lets it slip something is going on with the mom or something like that.
She doesn't give away too much.
And she says that to the dads and they're pissed at her. So they're like, okay, you need to go talk to the mom because she's like expecting money. So she like goes to talk to the mother, but then can't do it. She meets the mother and she can't say it to her face that like, my grandson did this and I want to pay you off so you don't have to get justice done kind of thing. Because the thing is like, this woman's very poor. So it's like, it's not even like, if she was offered money, I feel like it's not even possible for her to refuse. Like, she needs money.
Yeah. Ugh. She probably wouldn't even be able to, like, get legal action done at this point.
Yeah, exactly. So she says that she wasn't there, but the dads have a meeting with her anyway. And they're like, hey, we're going to have the money soon. And she's like, ugh. So she's like, okay, I really got to get this money. So she goes to her old boss, the man with the stroke or whatever, who can't move very well. She sleeps with him. And then she blackmails him.
Yeah.
She's like, hey. She shows up on his birthday.
Yeah, in front of his family.
She's like, hey, I just got to talk to your dad real quick.
About the money.
And then she's like, oh, you owe her money, Dad? And she's like, are you blackmailing me? And she's like, yep. She's like, don't judge me.
She's like, call it what you want, but I need the money.
Yep.
Don't ask. So he gives her the money. She pays it off. And then the dad's like, hey, let's celebrate. And she's basically like, oh, fuck off. I'm going.
Yeah, she's like, I'm going home. But she's still going to the poetry classes, and she's trying. This whole time, she's been trying to get her grandson to feel bad about it.
Yeah.
Like, she's like, do you want me to say, like, do you want to say anything to me? And she puts up the picture of, like, the memorial picture of the girl. She had even gone to a memorial service at the church, and it felt like there were 3 girls there, and I'm pretty sure they knew, like, at least who she was.
Yeah.
Because they're like staring at her and whispering, and then she leaves, and that's when she takes the picture.
Yeah. The one in the middle of that group looked a lot like the girl who had committed suicide. Yeah, it wasn't, but like her haircut and looked like it, and I wonder if that was meant to be
like she was seeing it, maybe the only two that were there, but she couldn't escape the vision of her, kind of thing. I could see that. But her grandson still feels no remorse and is an asshole about it. And then the dads pay it off, and they're like, hey, we're pretty much all good. And she's like, no more trouble. And she's like, unless the police get involved, then we're good. So she goes to her grandson and is like, hey, you have to go take a shower when we get home, and you need to clip your nails, and your haircut, you got a haircut recently, so you won't be needing one of those. And it's like, And he's like, what's for? And she's like, oh, your mom's coming tomorrow. But really, she had called the police. Specifically, she was talking about how she knew, like, the only person, they had talked about how there were police that knew about this, but they were crooked. So it was fine. They're like, I don't want to do my job.
Yeah.
But the good cop in the movie is that one that was at the poetry night.
Mm-hmm.
And they show up and they arrest the son, or the grandson. And then they play fucking badminton or whatever with her.
Birdie,
yeah. And they play with her, and then she, in the morning, the mother shows up. So she was there. She shows up and the grandma is not there.
And
then the poetry class, the instructor shows up and he's like, oh,
flowers.
The woman, grandma, I can't remember her name. Grandma showed up and she left the poem there.
Yeah.
And, but she had left, and then
he reads it to the class, and it's a suicide note. And there's a scene.
It's pretty much a suicide note. Yeah. It's a good poem.
Yeah.
It's a good ass poem.
It is. There's a scene earlier in the movie where she's like kind of at this like bridge over a river, and she like drops her hat in there and looks, and it's good, obvious foreshadowing, but the movie ends with
showing the original girl's suicide, saying that they were pretty much, they were like two spirits, like pretty intertwined, connected, similar.
Yeah.
So the movie ends with the grandson in prison, hopefully the other son's in prison as well. And
hopefully.
Grandma killing herself.
Yep.
And that fucking ending was brutal. Especially because it's like they like still keep it vague. Like they're like, did she kill herself?
Yes.
Even though it's obvious. But I think showing the original girl's death is probably more impactful.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I was a big fan of this movie as well. There's some really, really good shots in this movie. And I think it's just because like the Korean countryside is so beautiful.
Yeah.
But yeah, this movie was my jam. Yeah. Didn't like it as much as like Oasis or Secret Sunshine, but I liked it.
Yeah.
It was a solid first watch too. Like this might be one of the best first watches, I would say, because it kind of embodies a lot of his stuff, and it's. I might have some notes on this one as well. Hold on. Oof. Oh, when this came out, there was a lot of talk about how this is the actress in this is pretty similar to the actress in Mother, just because they have like these late career like rebirths or like really good roles, and I think that like thematically they're pretty similar as well. Have you seen Mother yet?
No, I haven't.
You should watch Mother.
I need to.
So what'd you give this one, Thomas?
An 8.
Me too!
Wow!
Wow! Wow! Wow! Burning. Go ahead.
Oh man, Burning. Okay.
You just finished this one, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so you got this. Let me get some water.
Alright. So this is a movie.
Steve, you win! Run!
Yeah. This is a movie about a guy who basically he lives on his dad's farm, and his dad is going to jail for like assault.
Yeah, he assaulted some type of government worker.
Yeah. And while this is going on, he meets a childhood friend who used to like live right next door to him, essentially, or like or close to him.
Who like he doesn't recognize because she apparently got plastic surgery.
Yeah. But he kind of like starts rekindling this friendship with this old childhood friend that he had. She kind of like sets it up.
Hey me.
Hey me, yeah.
Hey me.
She gives him like a raffle for this like watch that's part of like this thing that she's being a cheerleader type for, spokesperson. I don't know what you would call whatever she was doing.
Yeah, she's an advertising lady pretty much.
She like dances and hands people raffle tickets.
But she pretty much makes it so he wins.
Yeah, and he gets like this kind of like pink watch, and she's like, "Wow, it's a nice watch for a girl. You got a girlfriend?" And he's like, "No." And she's like, "Oh, well, maybe you should find one to give that watch to."
And she's like, "Don't you remember me?" He's like, "No." She's like, "It's me." And he's like, "Oh."
Yeah,
so, like, I got sexy, right? Yeah. She's like, actually says, "I got sexy, right?"
So they go and they smoke some cigarettes, and they basically like kind of catch up, and she kind of like reveals. He's like, "Oh, this is more like the Hey Me that I used to know growing up," because it seemed clear that she had kind of like a tomboyish attitude growing up, or was not like.
And a lot of what she has now is like a facade.
Yeah. So she basically sets it up. She's like, "Well, I want you to come to my apartment and feed my cat while I go to Africa." He's like, "What?" So he goes to her apartment.
And he can't find the cat.
He's like, where the fuck is this cat?
She's like, well, his name's Boyle.
Yeah, his name's Boyle, and he's super shy.
Boyle.
He's like, is this cat real? And she's like, do you really think I made up a cat to get you over to my apartment? And they sleep together. And he catches feelings hard.
Hard.
It's unclear at this point what her feelings are, but she goes on her trip to Africa.
And he shows up and starts, giving the cat food. He never sees the cat.
Yeah, and he starts... He's
but
always
the food's gone, and there's sometimes poop in the litter, so he's like, well, there is a cat.
Yeah.
Or some very scary person hiding in the walls. At one point, I thought that's what was going to happen. I'm like, what if there's a person here?
Yeah, and it definitely gives it an eerie tone.
Yeah, when they're at one point they're having sex. I think it's when they're having sex. He's staring at the wall, and it was the way the shot composition was scary. I thought someone was gonna come out of the corner.
Oh.
A lot of the shots in this movie are unsettling to me, at least. I'm like, maybe it's because it holds on it just a little too long.
Yeah. Yeah, he's looking at the wall, and he's looking out the window at this kind of tower that is right at the window, and every time he goes to feed her cat, he ends up jerking off to that. He jerks off while looking at the tower out the window, and it's why? First of all, don't jerk off in another person's apartment, but B, if you're gonna do it, don't jerk off while looking out the fucking window. Jesus Christ. But he does. So it's oh, okay. So yeah, he's basically just taking care. We see he's conversing with this other woman who has the same watch. Which I feel this is an important plot point. It kind of feeds into what happens later in the film.
Yeah.
But, so he gets a call from her, and she's basically yeah, I was held up at the airport for 3 days because a bomb went off.
But I'll be here today.
Yeah, so pick me up, would you? And he's yeah, of course. So he goes, and he's super eager, but she brings back Stephen Young, who obviously intimidates him.
Who plays Ben.
Yes. And he's like, oh, okay. Yeah, so he's obviously kind of feels like a bit of a third wheel. Because, this guy shows up all of a sudden. And, they went through this scary situation together. So he's obviously like...
And he's also like way more confident than the main character. Way more... Lee, I think, is the main character. Way more confident, way more like well-dressed, well-groomed, rich as fuck.
Yeah. And we also find out he's very detached from his emotions. Because there's a scene where Amy is, kind of describing a part where she thought she was going to die. And then she's crying because she's obviously, like, a bit hysterical, reliving the moment. And then Ben's like, oh, man, so interesting scene.
It's fascinating watching people cry. And they're like, what the fuck are you on about?
I've never cried. Maybe when I was little, but not any time that I remember.
I don't think I've ever felt true sadness. I'm like, sir, you need to go to a therapist.
Yeah. It's like, maybe seek some professional advice on this one. Get a diagnosis, maybe.
Seriously.
But, yeah, so he's basically like, yeah, no, I don't really... Like, maybe, like, I think I feel sadness, but I don't cry, so I don't know if it's real sadness. It's like, oh, great.
Oh, good.
Let's see what happens next.
So, he's trying to, like, win her back, pretty much. He's trying to, he's like, what about me?
Yeah.
A lot of the time, but she's just seems so much more interested in Ben.
See, I was getting a lot of the vibes like she was just kind of using Ben to try and make him jealous.
Yeah, that may have been it as well.
Especially with some like contextual lines we get later in the movie. Like, particularly the scene that makes me think that is like, it seems like, because she sits next to, you said the main character's name is Lee?
I think it's Lee.
Okay, well, I'm going to call him Lee for now. Because, like, when they get back at the diner and stuff, she sits next to Lee. And when they're, like, separating
Or I guess Lee's his last name.
Jong-soo, okay. So she sits next to Jong-soo at that part that we were just talking about. And then as they're, like, leaving from there, and they're, like, about to go their own separate ways, he's got his car, and, he's got his little, like, dinky truck. And Ben offers the driver, and she like looks over at him, and it almost seems like she wants to ride with him, but he kind of like accepts for her. He's like, yeah, sure, and takes her stuff out of the car immediately. And then she just kind of like stares at him for a little bit before they go. And I feel like that was kind of like the deciding moment where it's like, are you really doing this? Like, you're just going to let this guy come along and, okay, if this is what you want.
Yeah.
So, yeah, didn't show enough spine, maybe. I don't know. But, so, yeah, he kind of just, like, gives her over. And then they spend, like, the next couple days together. They, like, meet up at, like, lunch the next day or a couple days later. And... basically, Ben's like, oh yeah, no, she really wanted to see you again. And then she's like, what are you talking about? He's the one who kind of like set all this up. And then he's like, whatever. And then he like, I think Ben takes a phone call in the scene. I don't quite remember.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When he goes to the restroom?
Oh, yeah. He, like, goes outside and does the whole, like, rock and the heart bit. Because he's like, the palm reading scene. Right?
Oh, yeah.
You've got a rock in your heart, and it keeps you from, fully enjoying things, telling boys you like that you like them, that kind of thing. And then he, like, pulls the, because he was outside.
He had a rock, and he pulled the rock, and I was like, ah. And then Jong-soo uses the bathroom?
Probably. He does that a lot.
and sees the thing.
No, this is the scene that we're at is in the restaurant.
Oh, you're right.
That's a little later.
You're right.
But they pretty much go to his house from here, I'm pretty sure. If I remember.
And then he goes.
And then he goes to the bathroom and he opens up the bathroom.
He's kind of just looking
cabinet.
around. And he's like, there's a lockbox, and he looks in. And there's like just stuff, and he opens a drawer. And,
a bunch of like lady trinkets.
Yeah, and they all have like different names or stuff. And he's like,
so he's like, oh, this is kind of weird, and closes it, and then goes about, and then.
At one point, they have a big party.
Yeah.
And she talks. They talk about this multiple times, but they talk about little hunger and big hunger.
Yeah.
Little hunger being people want to survive, or people want to, just like be happy.
Yeah, get by day to day, and then
big hunger
is like the
having meaning, like just finding a great meaning kind of thing. And which is pretty important because those two main characters, her and Jung-soo, represent those two pretty clearly.
Yeah.
What's so scary about Ben is that he represents seemingly nothing. Like what does he want? There's a lot about Ben that's just a mystery, and that's why he's intimidating.
Yeah. So
eventually they go to his place, Jung-soo's place.
Yeah.
And they get high.
Yeah, they smoke marijuana.
Which I don't think was marijuana. Because, like, he was high the next day still.
That can technically happen.
but not from, like, what he had.
It seems
she
like
immediately gets naked and starts dancing around.
Yeah, it definitely seems like it was laced with something. But
they talk, and he immediately expresses, like, he tells Ben that he's in love with her.
But I'm gonna say this. I don't think she smokes pot. She says she does, because he's like, you guys want to smoke marijuana. And then immediately she's like, I giggle whenever I smoke that stuff. And my first thought is, she doesn't smoke pot. What a fucking liar.
Well, like on the regular? Yeah.
Well, that just sounds like, oh yeah, pot makes people giggle. Like it just sounds like a lie somebody would say if they were like trying to.
Yeah, she just tries to be cool.
So maybe she got a little too high. I mean, I think it was more likely that it was laced with something a little stronger than he insinuated, especially given
because what
the chaotic
does.
Yeah, the kind of chaotic neutral of his character.
But. Then Ben goes on about how he likes to burn greenhouses. And as soon as he starts this, I'm like, Ben is not talking about greenhouses.
But of course, the main character's like, he means literal greenhouses.
I mean, he's also very high, so he's like, well, that's kind of a weird thing to do, but he's like I came here to scout out places to burn. He's like, you're gonna burn a greenhouse around here? And he talks about, he's like, greenhouses are ugly. Or he's like, I choose which ones are useless. And I'm like, he's talking about women!
Yep.
And I'm like,
Yeah, so basically that happens. Mise, what's her name?
Hamey.
That's what it was. So Hamey fell asleep. I think it is.
Mihei, that's right.
Okay. Sorry for the abundance of names that we've
There's a lot of
given.
Watch 6 movies.
So Mihei is narcoleptic or something and can fall asleep anywhere. So she falls asleep during random points. And she's inside sleeping at this point. And
talks about greenhouses.
Yeah, talks about greenhouses. And he's like, I love her.
And he starts laughing.
Because he completely misses the point of what he was just saying. It's like, oh, okay. And then she comes out, and then basically
they leave pretty much.
They leave after he leaves on the sourest note he possibly could have, because he basically calls her a whore. He's like, took your shirt off in front of just anyone, you fucking whore.
Yep. And then
it's like, oh, yep, great. Fantastic.
And then she disappears.
Yep. And Ben disappears from the movie for a little while. We don't see him.
Yeah.
For a bit.
But Mr. Jong-soo, he's looking around. He goes to her house. She's not answering the door. He calls her. Eventually...
goes to the mimic school that she went to. By the way, she's a mimic. We skipped that part.
Yeah.
She eats fake oranges.
Yeah, she eats... You mean a mime?
Mime, mimic, like, isn't that...
I mean, a mimic is the monster from Dungeons and Dragons.
I thought mimic was like a way of saying like copying or basically pantomiming.
I mean, that's true. I don't know if I've never heard. Yeah, that's probably another accurate term.
That's probably another accurate term. Like that's me mimicking you. Like.
Thanks. That would be mocking, but
oh, whatever. Who cares?
Fucking asshole. All right. So yeah, he pretty much searches everywhere. And eventually he's like pounding on her door and the landlady comes up and he's like, I need to make sure she's okay. And she opens the door and the room's like spotless and the cat litter's gone.
Yeah, because that was the whole reason. He's like, I used to feed and water.
She's like, oh, she probably went on a trip. And he's like, but what about the cat? She's like, we don't allow cats here. He's like, yeah, but there was a cat here.
Yeah.
So he's like looking around and...
cat stuff is gone.
And then he's like, it's gotta be. Ben must have done something. So he starts following Ben in a fucking giant ass truck.
Yep.
So Ben can eventually figures out that he's following him.
Yeah.
But he follows him places and kind of confronts him. He sees Ben has a new girlfriend.
Yeah.
Who looks shockingly similar.
Yeah.
They have the same hair length. They even have the same attitude. It's obvious that both of them were poor.
Yeah.
And he talks about... At one point, he even is like, it's so sad about Mihei, right? Mihei? Something like that?
Hey,
because...
Mihei, hey me.
People.
I think it's Mihei, yeah.
Because she had no friends or family. No one to miss her. And I'm like, ah!
He's like, yeah, you were the only person that she really...
cared about.
And then, of course, we find out, it's like, oh yeah, you left. And the last time you saw her, you called her a whore. Great.
Yeah. But eventually he is he keeps staying at Ben's house, apartment.
He parks at the same fucking spot.
But eventually Ben invites him in. He's like, what are you doing here? He's like, oh, I was just visiting you. He's like, you could have just called me. Yeah. And he does another little confrontation and he sees that Ben has a cat. Yeah. And he's like, when did you get a cat? And he's like, I don't know.
Been there before. He's like, oh, they got a stray recently. And there was a point in which I'm like, all right, maybe it's not the cat because the cat is extremely shy and hadn't revealed itself at any point when it was in this Mihei's apartment, but it's out and about at his place, which is arguably bigger, and you'd think there'd be more places for it to hide. But it basically runs out as soon as it gets the chance because because he's having a casual get together with his friends. Ben is and
he's going to be
and the first guest arrives aside from.
Or I think it's his girlfriend that arrives, and she lets him out. And he's like, oh no. And while this is happening, Jong-soo is in the bathroom, and he checks it, and he finds the watch. Yeah. So he knows, uh-oh. He, at this point, he's pretty much confirmed it. So then and he'll be about to confirm it even more in just a second. So he goes downstairs to help get the cat, because it's downstairs. And he sees the cat, and he is like, come here. And the cat responds to the name. And that's when you're like, ah!
Yeah. So basically, he, stays up for a little while, kind of observes this girl at this party. And it's a very, very kind of similar reaction from Ben. Because he yawned and seemed disinterested when Mihei was telling, her little story. Yeah. And it's very much the same thing. It seems like the friends are kind of feeding a different energy.
It feels like they're making fun of her. All the friends seem like...
they did that with Mihei, too. But it feels like a different type of tease. I don't know quite how to describe it. But But yeah, so then he basically leaves, and then Ben confronts him as he's leaving. He's like, "Hey, didn't you want to talk about me?" Hey,
he's like,
"I don't
it's
think
fine.
we need to anymore."
But and then a couple days pass, I think, and then it shows they're just in the middle of a field, pretty much, or like right next to a field on a secluded road. Mr. Jong-soo called Ben, and Ben's like, "Hey, I heard you found me." Hey, so obviously he thought that Jong-soo had like evidence on him or some shit, and Jong-soo's like, "No," and then goes over and stabs him.
Yeah,
and he's like brutally stabbing him, and Ben's like trying to get away, and then he dies.
Yeah, after a nice little hug.
Yeah, where they like stare into each other's eyes for a moment.
Yeah.
And then Jong-soo throws Ben back into his car, Ben's car, and lights him on fire. The same way he said he lit greenhouses on fire. And throws off all his clothes and is completely naked because there was blood covering it. So he just gets completely naked.
He's still covered in blood, but...
Yeah, at least he can wash it off. Like, at one point, right as he had stabbed him, a car came coming. I'm like, "Oh no!" But he's just like standing there. He's like, "Nothing's wrong."
Yeah.
And then he drives home like...
Yep. And he starts writing.
Yep. Because he'd been trying to write this whole time as well. He was a writer. That was a big thing, but he just like couldn't write.
And
And the movie ends. Also sad. This and Greenfish were the ones that I didn't think were as sad as the others.
Yeah.
Just because this one, I felt because it had kind of a more menacing, unsettling tone, the like deep depression didn't hit me as hard.
I agree.
I really loved this movie, though.
I enjoyed it quite a lot.
This one specifically had a lot of interviews, obviously, because it's so new. But, he says, like, he talks a lot about how he made this movie about millennials. Because he's like, millennials, see, they're, like, because he's like, I love millennials. Because he's like, millennials are the first generation where they have it worse than the previous generation.
Yeah.
He specifically talks about how the classes are growing apart so much more. Like, rich people are getting richer and poor people are getting poorer. So even though, like, Ben represents the rich, because even if you're not killing someone, even being rich is hurting the poor.
Yeah.
Which is why I think, like, those comments about Bong Joon-ho are so strange, because, like, this and Parasite are very similar movies, like, thematically, I think.
Yeah.
Except, instead of the Park family or whatever being murderers, they're just murdering through being rich.
Yeah.
But, no, I really like this movie. There's just some really good shots in this movie, which makes sense. It's the same cinematographer as Parasite.
Oh.
And Snowpiercer.
Okay.
And it's a bunch of other things. He's a really good cinematographer.
Yeah.
I was like, yeah. Oh, Mother. And the Wailing, which is... I fucking love the Wailing. Yeah, and he's talking about millennials, and he also talks about himself, how he's just really angry all the time. Like, he's just like, I'm fucking pissed all the time. So he's like, I'm gonna make this movie. Because this movie does have a very angry energy to it.
Oh, yeah.
But, yeah.
Aptly titled.
Like I said, I really like how Ben is, like, you never know what Ben, like, you don't know what he does for a living. You don't really know his motivations. Like, I think he's so much more menacing as an antagonist because you don't know anything about him, really.
Yeah.
Just that he's rich and he likes to burn women alive.
Yes.
I also think that even like, it is Hey Me, by the way.
Oh, okay.
I think that there's some really interesting storytelling elements between Hey Me and Ben because they're seen only through the scope of scenes with Jong-soo. So there's so much mystery surrounded by both of them, and you're only seeing them through his light. Like, would Ben be as nearly as scary if we saw it through his, like, light? Like, is his scenes where he's saying he doesn't cry complete lies, and he like cries every night. Like,
Yeah.
you know, and I think there's some really powerful storytelling by keeping so much of it a mystery and only knowing pretty much what the main character knows.
Yeah.
Obviously, we infer more, but we're not in that moment.
To a certain extent, a bit of an unreliable narrator.
Yeah, which I thought was a good.
Yeah.
Good.
Good technique there.
And yeah, I know I didn't talk about it a lot, but I really love the music in all these movies.
Yeah.
Like all of them. I thought the music was really, really great and pretty like wraps pretty heavily into the movie itself, like thematically.
Yeah. I didn't say anything about it thus far, with the exception of Greenfish. I thought like the sound design was excellent on all these movies, particularly Oasis. That was the one that I noticed it the most, where I was like, oh, wow, this a lot of ambient background noise.
Literally the only sound design issue I had was in Greenfish with the gunshot.
Yeah.
Or whatever, because I'm like, that, I don't know what that was supposed to be. But yeah, everything else, the sound design was great. And the cinematography was pretty great in all of them. And even like and it's never overstated either. Because I feel like some of the naturalistic tone, I think, would be not ruined, but less so if it was more overstated in the cinematography.
Yeah.
Like, if it was like, look at this cool shot.
Mm-hmm.
It still had cool shots, but it was never like, in your fucking face.
Yeah, never to the point where it was like distracting and being like, whoa, take you out of the movie.
I thought that, I grouped these movies and kind of, I put them in two separate groups, for me at least, because I felt personally that Secret Sunshine, Burning, and Oasis were the most similar to each other, because they were all about, like, guilt over something, and, like, extreme obsession with that person, I guess. Like, Secret Sunshine, she feels guilty about her husband, and then guilty about her son, and becomes obsessed with his dad. Oasis, he feels guilty about her situation. He's obsessed with her. He feels guilty about everything. And then Burning, same thing. He becomes obsessed with, they're all very similar. Mm-hmm. And then Poetry, Peppermint Candy, and Greenfish all are like films that are about people like kind of being swept into the story of another person, I would say. Or at least they're swept into the life of another person. Like Greenfish, he becomes intrinsically connected with the fucking mafia because of this, like, woman. Like, because he did one thing, it leads to him, like, dying because he joins the Korean mafia.
Mm-hmm.
And
then Poetry, it's obviously, like, her and her grandson's conflict. And
she gets, like, wrapped up in her grandson's ordeal.
Yeah.
And she, like, did nothing to deserve that. Peppermint Candy, like, that's a little more of a stretch, but, like, literally everything is tied to him being, first of all, like, drafted in the military, and then, like, forced to, fight students in the riots, and then killing somebody by accident. But, yeah, all of them, that's how I felt. I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, I generally agree with you for the most part. It feels like they definitely could be grouped together like that. Yeah. So fucking tired.
Okay, what'd you give this movie?
I'd probably give this one probably like an 8, maybe a 9 on a future watch, but I'm feeling an 8 right now.
I gave this one a 9. So, 8.5.
Yeah.
All right. So, this is my guess for you.
Hold on. Find my list.
You keep looking for it and keep finding it and then keep losing it again.
I know.
Why do you do it? Why don't you just put it on the table?
I have ADHD and I like to fiddle with stuff.
Okay, so this is all wrong. This is all wrong.
Okay.
I put, here's top to bottom. Burning, Secret Sunshine, Oasis, Peppermint Candy, Poetry, Greenfish.
You got my number 3 right.
Okay, go ahead. What's your list?
Okay. So, starting with number 6, poetry.
That was your least favorite?
Yeah.
Okay.
Peppermint Candy.
Okay.
Burning.
Okay.
Oasis. Green Fish. Secret Sunshine.
Okay, yeah. That was... Okay, gotcha. Okay, what about mine?
Okay, so for you, you want me to start with 6 or 1?
Go bottom and top.
Okay, so I had Green Fish at your bottom. I had Peppermint Candy at 5. I had Oasis at 4. Secret Sunshine at 3. Poetry at 2. Burning at 1.
Well, you got the 5 and 6 right.
Okay.
But then it's Green Fish, Peppermint Candy, Poetry, Burning, Oasis, Secret Sunshine.
Okay.
So Secret Sunshine was your top as well, right?
Yeah.
Woo! Another director down.
Yeah, dive.
I guess technically, I think this might be my most highly rated director out of the ones we've done, because this is the first one I've given 2 10s to. I think Bergman's yours still, because that has a 9 average for you.
Yeah.
I'm gonna next director deep dive. I'll have a bunch of info on our other ones. So okay. What are we watching next week for you? You got old movie, right?
Huh?
You got old movie next week?
Yeah.
Okay.
King Kong.
The 30s?
33.
Okay. Very cool. Very cool. And I'm gonna do a rewatch for both of us. One that I think we need to help us out. One you talked about earlier on the podcast.
I did?
Yep.
What is it?
Brigsby Bear.
Oh, hey.
It's a nice movie that's pretty happy, pretty jovial. I think it'll be a good reset for us.
Yeah.
Let me just, before we end the podcast, let me just check where you can watch these.
Yeah, we've been on a stretch of depressing Asian movies.
Who's Driving Duck?
Straight from John Woo's The Killer, straight to this one.
Who's Driving Duck? King Kong, you can probably just find it on YouTube, I'm guessing, but it's available other places as well.
Yeah.
And then fucking Brigsby Bear is... it's on something. I watched it somewhere. I think. I also have it on DVD. So. Yeah, it's available to buy and rent places. So just go rent it. Brigsby Bear's great. Anyway, thanks for watching our fucking almost 4-hour long podcast.
Is this our longest one?
I think so. It's 3 hours and 40 minutes. So it's either the longest or like 5 minutes from the longest. Okay. Anyway, go watch Lead Chang-dong if you want to be really fucking sad.
Yeah.
So, bye-bye.
Adios.